Chapter 1586. Li Fan took Fang Xiaoxue and easily sneaked into the lobby of the broadcast tower. But it was still difficult to get to the revolving restaurant on the 50th floor. Those who could enter the revolving restaurant were either rich or respectable in the city. They were either celebrities or dignitaries. Under the invitation of the director, they entered the revolving restaurant to talk about business while enjoying the top-notch food here. To enter this restaurant, they needed more than just a work permit. Ordinary staff members were not qualified to enter and exit this place. To enter the restaurant, they needed a membership card. Just come in and take a look. I can't get into the restaurant, right? Fang Xiaoxue pulled Li Fan and wanted to drag him out. It's better not to go in. What if we are discovered? Don't worry, it won't happen. Li Fan gave Fang Xiaoxue a reassuring look. Then, he asked Fang Xiaoxue to wait for him in the corridor for a while, and he turned into a small path on the side. Hurry up and come back. Fang Xiaoxue was like a cute little girl at this time. Her whole body showed a scared expression. I know, just wait for a while. Li Fan had already entered the small path. It was very safe here. There were no surveillance cameras. At the end of the small path, there was only an old warehouse, which had been abandoned for a long time, dirty and messy. Absolutely no one would come here. But Li Fan came. He walked to the end of the familiar path, came to the front of the room, and then silently pushed the door open. The warehouse was very messy. Rows of shelves were placed inside, dividing the warehouse into several sections. And from the warehouse came a burst of blood-pumping moans, and the sound of flesh hitting each other. If it was an ordinary man, he would definitely go over to see what was going on, but Li Fan was not curious at all. He had already seen who these two people were in countless reincarnations. The middle-aged bald TV director, and a popular female host. The two often came here to have a tense and exciting affair. Li Fan did not know how many times, but he estimated that it was definitely not a small number. He ignored the director in front of him who was pressing the female host on the table, just reached out and picked up the clothes he threw to the side, and took out a black gold membership card. As long as they had this membership card, Li Fan and Fang Xiaoxue could go anywhere they wanted. He put the clothes back, then turned around and walked back. Although the director had such a membership card, he did not actually need it to enter the revolving restaurant. Who in this broadcast tower didn't know him? The female host was the most famous live streamer on the video platform. Because of her good looks and good figure, many fans liked her. The station head was the leader of the local TV station. He did have a lot of power in his hands, and he often came here to discuss film and television cooperation with the video station. Usually, some of the plans and guidelines that he revealed would allow the video platform to earn a lot of profit. Li Fan couldn't be bothered with their affairs. Right now, the most important thing to him was Fang Xiaoxue. Li Fan left the warehouse. After he came out, he took 2 sets of clothes from the changing room. He kept a suit for himself and gave a white dress to Fang Xiaoxue. Where did you get these? Fang Xiaoxue was a little dizzy. Today's Li Fan made her very surprised, but also very happy. Did he painstakingly help me manage all of this? Change into these clothes, Your Royal Highness the Princess. Li Fan made a bow to Fang Xiaoxue. I have already prepared a banquet for you. Look at you. It's quite like that. Fang Xiaoxue looked at the polite Li Fan and slightly blushed. She took the dress and walked to the bathroom. After a long time, she finally changed her clothes and shyly walked out. Fang Xiaoxue, who had changed into a white dress, looked like a new person, causing Li Fan to be a little stunned. As the saying goes, clothes make the man. Fang Xiaoxue was originally quite good-looking, but she had always been dressed up and only wore some boys' clothes, so she did not show her beauty. Today, she changed into a white dress, but the beauty that she had hidden for a long time was brewed like fermented wine, causing Li Fan to be a little drunk. How is it? Does it look good? It looks good. Li Fan recovered after a long time and nodded his head. It's very beautiful. You are not a princess, you are a goddess. Go to hell. Even if you praise me, I won't be happy. Fang Xiaoxue's heart was also beating very fast. Li Fan was really different today. Dressed in a suit, he seemed to have a fatal charm. He was him, but he was also not like him. Oh right, Fang Xiaoxue carefully pulled up the hem of her dress. I'm afraid of the cold. So I'm still wearing long johns. Is it okay? It's okay, let's go, goddess. Li Fan held Fang Xiaoxue's hand, got into the elevator, and walked up to the 50th floor. The elevator directly opened in the center of the 50th floor. As soon as the door opened, 2 attendants stood outside and bowed to Li Fan and Fang Xiaoxue. Li Fan did not say anything, he just showed them his black gold card. Respectable sir, this way please. A waitress hurried over to greet them. They had received professional training, and the black gold card was a top-notch membership card. Those who held this card were either wealthy or respectable people in the city. They were either their children or their family members. Looking at the 2 people in front of them, they should be the young masters of some family. Sir, is this your first time here? Yes. Li Fan maintained his cold arrogance. He squeezed Fang Xiaoxue's hand hard, calming the trembling little girl down. Give me a jazz song. Li Fan's attitude was like an old driver who had been here many times, maintaining his understanding of the place. Seeing him like this, the female attendant was even more certain that he was the young master of some family. Before coming, his family had already informed him. French cuisine, menu. Sir, we provide a total of 13 dishes of French cuisine, is that okay? Fang Xiaoxue secretly pulled on Li Fan's sleeve, lowered her voice, and whispered in his ear, making Li Fan's ear itch and a little numb. So many dishes. Can we finish them all? Li Fan lightly tapped on the back of Fang Xiaoxue's hand, then nodded to the attendant. Then, under the guidance of the female attendant, they came to a seat by the window. The restaurant was slowly rotating. In comparison, it was like the city below was rotating, it looked a little magical. Fang Xiaoxue looked at the city below, her eyes blurred. She could not even believe that everything in front of her was real. My goddess, do you want to dance with me? There was a band playing next to them, and Li Fan suddenly extended his hand to Fang Xiaoxue, inviting her to dance. Chapter 1587. Fang Xiaoxue was a little nervous. She didn't know how to dance. However, Li Fan guided her and danced. The restaurant was spinning, the city was spinning, and Fang Xiaoxue's heart was also spinning. Li Fan. Is this really okay? Fang Xiaoxue was in Li Fan's arms. Although she was dancing, her heart was pounding. Well, you are a goddess today. Enjoy it. Li Fan felt Fang Xiaoxue's temperature. At this moment, it was as if the whole world was quiet. Fang Xiaoxue was the only one left beside him. Nothing else existed. It would be great if time could stop. Fang Xiaoxue said with some reluctance. Well, what a pity. Li Fan accompanied Fang Xiaoxue until she returned home. After waking up the next day, Li Fan returned to the original time. He took out the mirror under his pillow, glanced at it, and then put it in his pocket. It was still Monday's breakfast, scrambled eggs with tomatoes. Li Fan had already eaten it without any taste. Even if it was a delicacy, he would get tired of eating it for a few days, not to mention scrambled eggs with tomatoes. He didn't even know how many days he had eaten it. Li Fan walked out of the room. Fang Xiaoxue greeted him happily like hundreds of times before. She hugged Li Fan's neck. Little Li, why are you up so early today? Well, I went to bed early yesterday. Li Fan looked at Fang Xiaoxue and showed his usual smile. Let history return to the right track, let everything continue. Lin Yuhin's method was right. It was the only way. Although Fang Xiaoxue was very important, the dead were gone. Fang Xiaoxue would forever live in the depths of his memory, and the stories of others had to continue. Everything was the same as before. The bag thief appeared, and Fang Xiaoxue chased after him. Li Fan stood where he was, trying his best to restrain himself. Although he was prepared, at the moment when Fang Xiaoxue was about to die, Li Fan was still trembling. His body was trembling, and so was his heart. Lin Yuhin's words echoed in Li Fan's ears. Wisdom could change the future, but it could not change the past. The Azure Dragon Pagoda was really too hateful. It actually used his feelings to play such an ugly trick. Screams came from afar, followed by police sirens, which were unusually ear-piercing. Li Fan walked over slowly. He saw the police dispersing the crowd and saw a woman being carried onto a stretcher. A hand hung down powerlessly from the stretcher, and together with a precious memory of Li Fan's past, it fell down together with him. The surrounding space suddenly began to tremble. It was as if space was a screen that was rapidly flowing backwards. Li Fan felt slightly dizzy. He looked at the surrounding scenery, and very quickly, the scenery became clear again. He had already returned to the Azure Dragon Pagoda. He actually came back. Dragon Girl stood outside the pagoda. When she saw Li Fan, she could not help but be surprised. However, Li Fan's appearance seemed to have changed. His hair had some white hair, and it was as if he had aged a lot in an instant. Dragon Girl knew that this was a trick of the Azure Dragon Pagoda. In the past, what had Li Fan experienced? At this moment, Li Fan waved his palm. The tallest clock tower in the distance was suddenly carved with a huge palm print, and the clock tower shattered. Fuck! Dragon Girl shouted in distress. This is the bell of Backtrack. It is a treasure from the primordial era, and you actually broke it just like that. What's the use of keeping such a preposterous thing? Li Fan's voice revealed a kind of coldness, causing Dragon Girl to shiver slightly. This man seems to have become different. This feeling is not very comfortable. Where is the Azure Dragon? Li Fan's voice reverberated throughout the Azure Dragon Pagoda under the effect of his internal force. He suddenly raised his head and glanced at the top floor. Is it there? Li Fan's feet bounced, and his entire body leaped 7 to 8 meters high. Following that, he landed on the opposite wall of the tower, and began to run while sticking to the wall. He used his superb Qinggong and quickly approached the top floor. Aya, wait for me. Dragon Girl did not know Qinggong, but her physique was higher than ordinary people. She jumped onto the opposite wall, and with both hands, she crushed the stone and dug into the wall. Following that, she continued to climb up, following behind Li Fan. Li Fan quickly arrived at the top floor, and what entered his eyes was a huge dragon head. Below the dragon head was a passage that led to the next room. The stone door had already been smashed, and the scattered stones fell on both sides. Li Fan immediately used his Qinggong and flashed into the dragon's mouth passage, arriving at the next room. This should be the place where the Azure Dragon's successor usually trained. At this moment, he looked somewhat miserable. The armor on this Azure Dragon's successor's body was broken into pieces, and his face was bruised and swollen. He was being held up in the air by a familiar man with one hand. That hand had crushed his throat, and the fingers were stained with blood as they pierced deeply into his neck. Sorry, you're a step too late. The man in front of him wore a golden red coat, and his clothes were embroidered with noble 9 dragons, showing off his ambition. Liaoju. Li Fan recognized the other party at a glance, so the person who was a step ahead of me was you. You don't seem surprised to see me. The martial emperor wiped the blood off his hands on the Azure Dragon's body, and then threw his corpse to the side like trash. I just saw a lackey, what's there to be surprised about? Li Fan ridiculed. The martial monarch's thoughts were exposed, and his expression immediately turned ugly. If you can't endure humiliation, how can you achieve great things? Liao Ju said loudly, how can a sparrow know the ambitions of a swan? You don't understand me, so I don't blame you. You're making yourself sound so awesome. Are you trying to find a reason to be a dog? Li Fan sneered, causing the martial emperor's expression to change a little. Forget it, since you're going to die soon, I'll just take it as you barking before you die. That's right, what a coincidence. I'm in a bad mood, so I'll take it out on you. Li Fan's voice seemed to come from a cold land, even the martial emperor felt a chill when he heard it. You're really reckless. I've already mastered the immortal technique today. How can a mere mortal like you fight against me? You'll know once you try. Interesting. Today I'll tell you what despair is. As the martial emperor spoke, he suddenly activated the immortal power in his body. True immortal technique. Furthermore, it was a complete true immortal technique. The martial emperor was originally a genius in martial arts, and now he had mastered the 7th level of the true immortal technique. A red mark appeared on his forehead. Following that, the immortal power flowed around his body, wrapping around his body. A golden dragon appeared on his left and right. This dragon was around 3 meters long, and it had an arrogant posture as it protected the martial emperor's body. This is the true immortal technique, to cultivate a true elemental immortal dragon. The martial emperor let out a loud laugh. Chapter 1588. Li Fan looked at the golden dragon and his heart moved. This true immortal art seemed to have purified his martial god true body and then used it again. From the martial god true body to a true immortal, this was a little interesting. The change in identity also caused his strength to change. But Li Fan was curious, since there was such a skill, why didn't Hua and Yu learn it, but instead let martial emperor Liao Ju learn it? What secret was in this true immortal art that allowed sky beyond heaven to control such an expert who was trying to cultivate true immortal power? 5th stage, Yellow Emperor Dragon. Martial Emperor suddenly struck out with his palm, the golden dragon directly slapped towards Li Fan's cheek. 15 Success Force, Mysterious Dragon Ice Palm, overturning the heavens and stirring the seas. Li Fan also struck out with his palm. The white ice dragon whistled out and the two dragons collided. But it was obvious that the ice dragon condensed by Li Fan's essence was not as strong as the golden dragon condensed by the opponent's true immortal power. In just one exchange, Li Fan's ice dragon was smashed to pieces. Powerful. The difference in quality was indeed a disadvantage. It seemed like Li Fan couldn't win against Martial Emperor in terms of energy, but Li Fan didn't only know internal energy, he also had a pure martial art that couldn't be used in actual combat in several generations of reincarnation. Now was the time to use it. Li Fan's figure flashed, and in an instant, he appeared beside the Martial Emperor, and directly kicked the Martial Emperor's head. His kick was also based on the Thunder Dragon Heavenly Punishment. His kick carried lightning as if he was raising a large blade, preparing to cut off Martial Emperor's head. Bam! Martial Emperor's golden dragon directly spun over and used its tail to knock Li Fan's lightning blade away. Moreover, after the golden dragon knocked Li Fan away, it spat out a golden lightning, immediately sending Li Fan's body flying. 6. Li Fan couldn't help but want to praise it. True immortal power was indeed different. Especially the Martial Emperors, they had rich combat experience. Even the so-called immortal slaves were far stronger than them. Do you see? This is my current power. The Martial Emperor controlled the golden dragon to circle around him. He looked at Li Fan with a cold smile. The current you is far from being a match for me. Why don't you just obediently wait for death? That way, you'll be able to die a quick death. It's hard to say who will win. Li Fan sneered. It's so ugly. The Martial Emperor sighed. A person who is unwilling to admit his own failure is the most unsightly. Fine, I will personally destroy your fantasy. As he spoke, the Martial Emperor raised his hand, and the golden dragon spread open its claws once more before pouncing down towards Li Fan. However, Li Fan's figure flashed as he leapt up. He stepped on the golden dragon's body and quickly arrived at the Martial Emperor's side. The golden dragon immediately turned around and whipped its tail, wanting to force Li Fan to retreat. But Li Fan used the 1,000-kilogram drop technique and with a thud, he directly landed on the ground, creating a crater in the ground. At the same time, he also avoided the golden dragon's tail. The Martial Emperor looked at Li Fan who was squatting in front of him. A smile hung on the corner of the other party's mouth. His expression finally changed. Almost subconsciously, he used his hands to block in front of him. But Li Fan raised his palm and instantly avoided the Martial Emperor's arms and landed on his lower abdomen. Fart! The Martial Emperor spat out a mouthful of blood, and then his body flew out. The golden dragon flew over and coiled up in the air. It caught the Martial Emperor's body and let him sit on the dragon's body. Liao Ju, although you have cultivated this true Yuan immortal dragon, but unfortunately, after using it, you have lost the ability to fight. Li Fan had already seen the Martial Emperor's weakness. Just like the other inferior immortals, as long as they attack you at close range, you will become like a lady without pants, allowing others to do whatever they want. My golden dragon can naturally protect me, Liao Ju said as he let the golden dragon protect him. At the same time, The golden dragon opened its mouth and spat out a thunderbolt towards Li Fan. With a cracking sound, Li Fan lightly moved his body to the side and dodged the thunderbolt. Sorry, your thunderbolt can't be compared to a real thunderbolt. Li Fan shrugged his shoulders. It's too slow, it's very easy to dodge. Is that so? Liao Ju sneered. Following that, the golden dragon's tail wrapped around his body and its front half suddenly stretched out. Waving its dragon claws, it bit towards Li Fan's head. Spirit snake coming out of its hole? No, it should be called Divine Dragon Goes to Sea. This move was extremely fast, almost causing Li Fan to be unable to escape. 15 Success Force, Dragon Subduing Platform, Dragon's Teeth. Almost subconsciously, Li Fan immediately used this set of leg technique. Li Fan's leg technique was both offensive and defensive. Usually, when it was used to attack, it was the most ferocious. But at this moment, when it was used to defend, it was also very effective. Bang, bang, bang. Li Fan kicked a few times in a row. The beautiful continuous kicks were like an evil dragon constantly biting, kicking away the golden dragon that was approaching him. Not bad defense, unfortunately, it's still not enough. As the martial emperor spoke, he suddenly activated his celestial force and increased the power that he exerted on the golden dragon. True immortal power, 9 folds, Yellow Emperor rides the dragon. After evolving to true immortal power, the martial emperor seemed to only know this move. But this move was ever-changing and had endless uses. After the martial emperor unleashed all of his power, the 3-meter-long golden dragon suddenly began to rapidly expand its body. In the blink of an eye, it directly leaped to a length of more than 10 meters. Then, with a claw, it broke through Li Fan's defense and bit his body, sending his body flying out and heavily crashing into the wall at the side. With a bang, the wall split open and Li Fan was knocked into the room next door, lying in the rubble. And the huge golden dragon's claw pressed down on Li Fan's body. It opened its bloody mouth and spat out a bolt of lightning at him. Kacha. The lightning struck Li Fan's body, causing Li Fan's hair to explode. Li Fan spat out a mouthful of black smoke. His entire body was in pain. This time, the electric shock he received was not light, almost causing his soul to fly out of his body. Damn, this martial emperor's full power is indeed a bit strong. The martial emperor was a little proud. This was the power of the azure dragon that he had obtained. After fusing with it, his strength had increased by so much. Indeed, he had to seize the time to attack the other holy towers and strive to obtain the power to match up to immortals and even heaven immortals. Hihi, do you know how powerful I am? The martial emperor stood on the dragon's head and looked down at Li Fan, smiling complacently. This is your fate. To be able to die in my hands, it can be considered that you have died a worthy death. You, fused with the power of the holy beast. Li Fan could feel that within the martial emperor's power, there was the feeling of the azure dragon. He had swallowed a dragon and was possessed by the white tiger, so he was very sensitive to the power of the holy beast. So what if I am? You will definitely lose. Chapter 1589. In the eyes of the martial monarch, Li Fan was destined to lose miserably. He was just a small martial artist. How could he compare to him, who had become an immortal? Go to hell. Just as the golden dragon was about to attack, Li Fan's eyes suddenly turned scarlet red. Following that, Li Fan raised his hands and actually lifted the golden dragon up. The martial monarch who was stepping on the golden dragon's head was almost thrown off. 3 golden red tails swayed behind Li Fan's back. In the 5 seconds of being stepped on, Li Fan had already quickly adapted to this state where his strength had doubled. Damn it! The martial monarch was shocked. Where did you get this kind of power? I learned it in order to beat you up. Li Fan's feet shot out and suddenly appeared in front of the martial monarch. The golden dragon immediately raised its head and tried to block Li Fan's attack. However, Li Fan turned around and kicked the golden dragon's head. Boom! The golden dragon flew out and heavily smashed into the wall at the side. Li Fan's strength had doubled, and his speed and strength had also doubled. The martial monarch regained control of the golden dragon and started fighting with him. He realized that he could not do anything to Li Fan. Bang, bang, bang. After a few moves, the golden dragon was forced back by Li Fan. 30% power, dragon slaying terrace, third prince. Li Fan suddenly stepped on the golden dragon's head with one foot, forcefully stomping its head into the ground. How strong was Li Fan, and how heavy was the golden dragon? With just this one move, the golden dragon's 7 inches was completely embedded into the ground. Fart! Li Fan raised his other foot high and then chopped down. Like a falling knife, it directly cut through the dragon's head. The dragon's head bag rolled down with a plop and landed to the side. It slowly turned into a golden light and disappeared from the sacred tower. However, when Li Fan turned his head, he discovered that the martial monarch had already disappeared. This old brat seemed to have realized that something was wrong and actually ran away. Son of a bitch, you sure run fast. Li Fan heaved a sigh of relief and dispersed the energy attached to his body. Although the possession of a spiritual beast was powerful, it would also bring some side effects to the body. The longer the time spent in possession, the more tired the body would be. Therefore, it was best to use it as little as possible. Who is that man? Dragon Lady was dumbfounded as she watched from the side. Isn't that a little too strong? His name is Martial Emperor, and he is the Martial Emperor of Jianghu for generations. Li Fan said, he is indeed very strong. If it wasn't for the fact that he is not familiar with the Azure Dragon's power, it is uncertain who would have won today. Li Fan already had a good grasp of the 9-tailed divine fox's power, which was why he was able to pummel martial emperors. However, a martial emperor's talent in martial arts was also astonishingly strong. If he was allowed to familiarize himself with the power of this Azure Dragon, perhaps, the outcome of this battle would be difficult to predict. Looks like his target is also the Sanctum. Li Fan sat cross-legged on the ground. The Azure Dragon Pagoda had lost its master, and its power was slowly dissipating. If we want to deal with heavens beyond, we must release the power of the 4 sages. Miss White Tiger once again appeared beside Li Fan and said in a low voice, the other party took away the power of the Azure Dragon. We must kill him in order to revive the Azure Dragon. I know. Li Fan sighed, I didn't expect Martial Emperor's strength to improve so quickly. Looks like I need to find a place to continue my cultivation. The martial assembly was about to begin, and Martial Emperor would definitely have his eyes on the 3rd page of the true immortal technique. With Martial Emperor's personality, he would definitely not let others cultivate such a powerful technique. If he did not work hard in his cultivation, he might be defeated in the martial assembly. But you don't have any direction right now. Dragon Lady said, with your own skills, what you need is time. With your yin and yang reverse training, even if you are only given 100 years, even if a heaven immortal from heavens beyond came, you would still have the power to fight. But the problem is that you don't have enough time. How about it? Do you want to consider my method? 9-tailed divine fox also flew out and floated in front of Li Fan, showing off her method to him. If you don't want to learn the Heavenly Fox Heart Sutra, I can teach you the great brilliant sun palm. If you practice this palm technique, you will be able to practice Zhu Xian's martial art. 9-tailed divine fox was scheming in her heart, but Li Fan did not fall for it at all. I actually want to see how those heaven immortals and heaven immortals fight. Li Fan said his thoughts, after fighting with Martial Emperor today, I seem to have gained some insight. Sooner or later, you will fight with even more powerful people. This is your fate and also your responsibility. Miss White Tiger trusted Li Fan a lot and thought highly of this young man. If not for him, the world might really be destroyed by heavens beyond. Although I'm sorry to involve you in such a terrifying life. But now, I can only rely on you. Miss White Tiger apologized to Li Fan, but Dragon Girl said casually. What's there to apologize for? Who asked him to be the Supreme Sword? Yes, the Supreme Sword that has been removed. Damn, Miss White Tiger is the best. You understand me. Li Fan curled his lips in anger. When I finish practicing my new martial arts, I'll show you that even without the Supreme Sword, I can still defeat heavens beyond. How is that possible? You need a divine weapon to deal with those immortals. The Supreme Sword. Before Dragon Girl finished speaking, her expression suddenly changed. Li Fan, what? Are you hungry? Do you want to beg me for mercy? The Supreme Sword. There's a new candidate. When did this happen? Just now. Li Fan was a little incredulous. Wasn't Dragon Girl always making things difficult for him? Why did the Supreme Sword choose a new successor? I'm not sure either. It seems like this person is too suitable for the Supreme Sword. Dragon Girl pondered for a moment, then said, I'm going back to the Imperial capital, then I'll bring the new Supreme Sword to you. I've said it before, I'll let you nurture the new Supreme Sword. Yes, but I'm going into seclusion for a month. Let's talk about it after a month. Li Fan was a martial arts fanatic, especially at this juncture. He had to control the key power to deal with a martial emperor. In a month, it would be the martial arts conference. He had to successfully defeat all his opponents at the conference. It seemed like there was never any space for him to rest. Then let's meet in a month. Dragon Girl's expression was very serious. Without hesitation, she leaped up and a pair of flesh-colored wings popped out from her back. Then, she leaped into the air and sped away. Holy shit! She knows this. Li Fan was a little surprised. Only ordinary dragons have wings on their back. Miss White Tiger reminded Li Fan with a smile, a real five-clawed golden dragon can ride on the clouds. Unfortunately, there are no longer five-clawed golden dragons in this world. Chapter 1590. China's primordial era slowly came to an end as humans came to power. During the Yellow Emperor's era, he led his people to destroy the most powerful witch race. After that, the Shangfang sword appeared and destroyed all the holy beasts. When it came to Li Fan's generation, not to mention the Magi, holy beasts, and even immortals could not be seen. Even the House of Martial Arts was on the verge of extinction. Li Fan felt that the more civilization developed, the more myths and legends would decline. After passing the Azure Dragon Pagoda, Li Fan returned to the pagoda where Miss White Tiger lived. He felt no pressure here. He could avoid the eyes of heavens beyond. It was very comfortable. Furthermore, there were 4 beautiful sword attendants taking care of his daily needs. He was living a blissful life. Husband, aren't you going into seclusion? Chana could not help but ask when she saw that Li Fan was dressed neatly and had no intention of entering the training room on the 2nd floor. Do you need me to prepare anything for you? No, let Chua do it. Li Fan said, before I go into seclusion, I have to chat with our guest. All right. Chun-Er was smart and immediately understood Li Fan's intentions. She helped Li Fan call Chua over and accompanied Li Fan to the prison on the 3rd floor. Hua was an inferior immortal from heavens beyond. The immortal who used to be high and mighty had now become a prisoner. I missed you. I'm here to see you. Li Fan, dressed in black sportswear, walked in and looked at the flowers with a smile on his face. Despicable mortal, you still dare to appear. Hua was furious when she saw Li Fan. He was a mortal, but he had imprisoned her for so long. Why wouldn't I dare to appear? Li Fan chuckled. You have good food and drinks here. You have a better life than anyone else. I didn't torture you. Why wouldn't I dare to appear? Fat. You ignorant mortal, how dare you treat me like this? When the exalted immortals from heavens beyond find this place, they will naturally destroy you. In the past, you all thought that I could not win against an inferior immortal. But look, I have already imprisoned you. Li Fan said. Even if an ascendant immortal comes, I can still defeat him. Nonsense. If you hadn't used such a despicable method, how could you have defeated me? The flower looked at Li Fan mockingly, as if she still did not take Li Fan seriously. It seems that you are indeed unconvinced. Li Fan smiled. Last time when you fought with me, you didn't use your full strength, right? Li Fan could tell from the martial emperor's technique that the power of an inferior immortal was definitely not as simple as what Hua had used previously. This woman might have underestimated him, so she hadn't used her full strength yet. By the time she wanted to use her full strength, she had already been defeated by him. It's good that you know. If I use my full strength, you won't be able to retaliate at all. All right, I'll give you this chance. As Li Fan spoke, he snapped his fingers. Chou-Er immediately nodded. After that, She unlocked the chains and placed the flower down. You really have guts. The flower fell to the ground, still unable to believe what had happened in front of her. You actually let me go. Are you tired of living? Come, bring out your strongest power. Li Fan hooked his finger at the flower. Let's fight. Truly courting death. The flower sneered. This time, she does not plan to give in to Li Fan anymore. Thus, with a wave of her hand, a red rose flew out from her head and flew into the sky, continuously spinning and floating. Flower leaf true immortal. The flower's red lips lightly spat out and a huge red rose immediately sprouted from the ground. The red rose bud slowly bloomed, and a 1-meter-tall flower fairy stood up from within. So that's how it is. Li Fan nodded his head. Although it is different from the true elemental immortal dragon, this flower leaf true immortal is also a form that possesses powerful energy. Don't show mercy, kill this man. The flower hates Li Fan to the bone. She actually lost to a mortal and was imprisoned by him for such a long time. She must use his life to wash away her anger. This flower fairy holds 2 swords in her hands and suddenly appeared in front of Li Fan. Swish 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 swish. This flower fairy's speed is extremely fast. In a blink of an eye, she has already stabbed over 100 times. However, Li Fan executed dragon teeth and kicked the flower fairy's swords away. The flower fairy is actually unable to suppress Li Fan's kick. Instead, Li Fan's kick landed on her neck. The flower fairy's body spun and smashed to the side. Li Fan's eyes are currently shining with a red radiance. On his back, 3 fox tails are swaying. These 3 tails seem to be a lot shorter compared to the first time. Demonic art again? No. The flower fairy suddenly frowned. Although she has taken out the stance from that day, she did not release any demonic power from her body. This is my fusion method. Li Fan swings his neck, however, I am still not familiar with it. I can use you to try it out. Damn it, you are actually using me as a target. The flower finally understood. You can say that. Li Fan crooked his finger again. Flower leaf true immortal, kill him. The flower fairy angrily shouted. That flower fairy immediately left behind a few afterimages and appeared around Li Fan. A few of them stabbed at Li Fan together. However, they only stabbed Li Fan's afterimages. The real Li Fan has already jumped up high with both his feet on the ceiling and is looking down. How can he be so fast? The flower fairy does not dare to believe that his speed is faster than her flower leaf true immortal. How is this possible? War dragon roar. Li Fan suddenly let out a loud roar. The flower fairy's body trembled slightly. The afterimages around her also disappeared. The only one left is still in a daze. Flower leaf true immortal. The flower fairy exclaimed. At the same time, Li Fan had already landed. Following that, he used a crescent kick with lightning and landed on the flower leaf true immortal's body. Lightning/third prince. The flower fairy was unable to dodge in time and one of her arms was chopped off. The flower fairy immediately retreated while Li Fan just stood there. The tail on his back was slightly shorter but his hair was much redder. The flower fairy started to tremble slightly. This Li Fan. How did he improve so much in such a short period of time? Why can't I affect him anymore? Not only the flower, the 9-tailed divine fox was the most shock. In the past, when she used spirit beast possession, it was actually the 9-tailed divine fox using her power to affect Li Fan. However, this time, it was as if Li Fan had taken the initiative to grab her power and use it as a weapon. Flower leaf fairy, use your full power. The flower fairy did not want to lose, so she used her strongest immortal power and sent it into the flower fairy's body. In an instant, red flower petals suddenly floated in the pagoda. Li Fan raised his eyebrows slightly. He also felt that a powerful force was approaching. Chapter 1591. Come on, let me see how strong you lowly immortals are. Li Fan had already maintained the fusion for 8 minutes. He could not persist for too long, or it would affect his bodily functions. Li Fan's current limit was still 10 minutes. World extinguishing myriad flowers. The flower's hair and the hem of her dress all fluttered in the air. The hem of her dress fluttered a little too high. Li Fan looked at the flower's long legs and almost lost his mind. Fuck, this is too despicable. She actually used a honey trap at such a crucial moment. Li Fan retracted his consciousness. At this moment, the flower fairy had already created 49 clones on this level of the pagoda. One by one, they surrounded Li Fan. At the same time, red flower petals fluttered in the air. These flower petals suddenly turned into sharp swords and shot toward Li Fan. Large-scale attacks surrounded Li Fan in the blink of an eye. Li Fan sneered. Although these flower petals were fast, he had trained under Murong Ying's attacks for a long time. Dragon's teeth. Li Fan kicked with both legs, bringing with him streaks of red lightning. In an instant, he kicked away the flower petals that had fallen in front of him. The lightning was originally blue, but after Li Fan fused it with the power of the fox god, the lightning turned scarlet. Under the fusion of the fox god's power, the nature of Li Fan's power changed. The power of his Yuan Qi was supposed to be silvery white in color. But now, Li Fan's power showed a red light, as if symbolizing a sense of destruction. Impossible. Seeing that her ultimate move could not even get close to Li Fan, the flower fairy's face stiffened. Level 20, Black Dragon Ice Palm, Upheaval the Seas. Li Fan suddenly struck out with his palm. A strong gust of wind directly hit the flower in the distance. Bang! Hua Hua's body flew out and smashed into the wall behind him. Thanks to the sturdiness of the underwater holy tower, which was reinforced by a special power, its hardness was 10 times stronger than steel. Even so, Hua's body was still embedded in the wall. The pain made her spit out a mouthful of blood. After cultivating an immortal technique, it's time to cultivate your own power into shape. Li Fan's fox tail had completely disappeared. On the contrary, his hair had completely turned scarlet, like a burning flame. After defeating the flower, the power on Li Fan's body slowly dissipated, and he returned to his original appearance. However, his hair was still black and white, making him look a little old. Take you for example. After your power takes shape, you'll become this flower leaf true immortal, right? Damn it, the flower hated itself very much. It had actually lost to a mortal. If you don't merge Yarrow arts, how can you be a match for me? Alright, you look too ugly like this. Li Fan walked in front of the flower. I've only cultivated for a few years. You old monsters have cultivated for God knows how many years. How can you talk to me about fairness? You mortals can only live for 100 years. You are already a low-level life form. So what if I live for 100 years? Humans have a short lifespan. That's why we have to continuously struggle and achieve our dreams through the hard work of generations after generations. You're just a struggling worm. Before the flower could finish speaking, Li Fan suddenly stepped forward, grabbed her neck with one hand, and lifted her into the air. Worm! The worm that you're talking about can now pinch you to death. Mortal! You will see the power of the heavens beyond heaven sooner or later. When that time comes, it will be the day that you humans will be destroyed. It won't happen that day. With a wave of his hand, Li Fan threw the flower in front of Qiu-Er. Qiu-Er immediately used the chains to lock up the flower's limbs. Qiu-Er, I'll give you 1 month to get all the useful information out of her. Yes, master. Leave it to Qiu-Er. Qiu-Er licked her lips. Torture, abuse. She was the best at it. Amidst Hua's indignant roar, Li Fan left the 3rd floor and returned to his own practice room. Sitting in the practice room, Li Fan maintained his usual posture. One foot was on the ground, and the other was raised. At the same time, one hand was facing the ground, and the other was supporting the sky. The Tai Chi diagram started to spin in his body. After spinning 81 times, it would spin 81 times in reverse. Every time a big cycle was completed, Li Fan's inner energy would become stronger. However, this process was too slow. It was so slow that Li Fan could not bear it. If this went on, he would not be able to deal with the upcoming martial arts circle convention. He could only use the power of fusion for 10 minutes. It might be easy to deal with others, but Jiang Feng and the Martial Emperor were all people who had their own trump cards. They would definitely not be easy to deal with. However, The training method of the Heavens Beyond Heaven gave Li Fan some inspiration. The Heavens Beyond Heaven trained the energy outside of the body. It was a little like releasing inner energy. However, once it was released, it could not be taken back. It was more like summoning a god. However, what Li Fan wanted to do was to use this energy to strengthen his body. A martial fighter must cultivate both internal and external martial arts in order to become stronger. What are you thinking about? Seeing that Li Fan was only slowly circulating his energy, Ms. White Tiger flew out again. She turned into a beautiful black-haired, white-clothed woman and stood on Li Fan's left side. Cultivation is done step by step. Although your task is heavy, you shouldn't be in a hurry. Since I rely on you to survive, I will naturally be of great help to you and fight for you. Don't listen to her, my dear. The nine-tailed divine fox also flew out and turned into a beautiful woman in red. She licked her lips at Li Fan. My method is more suitable for you. Fox, are you trying to seduce my brother Li Fan again? A huge white tiger suddenly stood up behind Ms. White Tiger before swinging its paw toward the nine-tailed divine fox. Meanwhile, a spirit fox sprang out from behind the nine-tailed divine fox and swept its tail to knock the white tiger's paw away. I'm invincible. Why would I be afraid of a big cat like you? Fox, I think you're asking for a beating. Just as the two of them were about to engage in a fierce battle, Li Fan suddenly spoke up. The two of you, please stop. Only then did the two of them fall silent. They turned around at the same time, wanting to hear what Li Fan had to say. No matter what grudges we had in the past, we should unite against a common enemy now. Nine-tailed divine fox, I know you've always wanted to use me, but we already have a spirit beast contract. Your most important mission now is to help me defeat the Heavens Beyond Heaven. How about it? Do you have any objections? Li Fan asked. No. The nine-tailed divine fox knew that her fate was already in the hands of Li Fan. Big sister White Tiger, you've always been very good to me. I understand that the nine-tailed divine fox does have her own thoughts, and I'll be on my guard against her. However, let's think about how to quickly increase my power. Chapter 1592. Li Fan acted as the peacemaker, calming the two of them down first. The two of them were very important to him in dealing with the sky beyond. These two, one righteous and one evil, could allow him to maintain an all-rounder. You two, please help me together, Li Fan asked sincerely. Don't worry, I will definitely do my best to help you. Miss White Tiger gently touched Li Fan's cheek, not only to help you, but also to help myself. Of course I will help you. This seat is only temporarily cooperating with you, don't think too much about it. The nine-tailed divine fox still had that double attitude, no one knew what she was thinking. Li Fan, do you have any good ideas? Miss White Tiger was very concerned about this problem. The only way is to think of a way to quickly increase the rotation speed of my Taiji diagram, Li Fan said. I'm so envious of the mental space recorded in Dragon Ball. A few years have passed inside, but only a day has passed outside. Originally, using the power of the Azure Dragon Pagoda and the Mirror of Time could also be done. Miss White Tiger laughed. Unfortunately, it was destroyed by you. Damn, this is too unlucky. Li Fan was very helpless. Who could have expected this kind of thing? It doesn't matter, there is actually a mental room in my pagoda. Miss White Tiger's words caused Li Fan's eyes to light up. Ah, there really is. Although it can't reverse time, there is another set of methods. Miss White Tiger nodded. In this mental room, the gravity is 10 times that of an ordinary room. However, this is only a small part of it. That place has a strict test of mental power. If you can cultivate there, your martial arts will advance by leaps and bounds. Hey, what kind of logic is this? Li Fan was a little confused, but the nine-tailed divine fox had a rough guess. It's mental suppression, right? That's right, you're smart. Ms. White Tiger's attitude toward the nine-tailed divine fox had never been very friendly. In the face of such intense spiritual suppression, a normal person would rather die than live. It is also a harsh test for martial fighters. It trains both the body and the mind, and it can stimulate the chi to improve greatly. This is the good side. If something goes wrong, Li Fan will probably become a madman, right? The nine-tailed divine fox crossed his arms and chuckled coldly. White Tiger, I thought you were being kind, but it turns out you're just using Li Fan. I'm just providing a way for Li Fan. Miss White Tiger frowned coldly. I'm different from someone like you who has ulterior motives. What a joke. I wonder who's joking. Seeing that the two women were about to fight again, Li Fan had a headache. Could it be that these two people were enemies in their previous lives? Alright, no matter how scary the place is, we have to go and take a look. Since there was such a room in the tower, Li Fan had to go take a look. As the saying goes, seeking riches amidst danger. This was his chance. Don't worry, I'll be by your side at all times. Miss White Tiger said. If you're in danger, I'll close the psyche room immediately. Then let's go take a look at the psyche room. Li Fan was a little impatient. I want to see how scary it is. Alright, come and take a look. Miss White Tiger did not go out. She only asked Li Fan to inform Chun-Er through the communicator. Soon, Chun-Er walked over slowly with a scroll in her hand. Husband, old master, I've brought it. Chun-Er said as she slowly unfolded the scroll and hung it on the wall. The nine-tailed divine fox did not think much of it at first, but when she saw the scroll, she could not help but widen her eyes. 10 Miles Pavilion of Spring? Oh, you know of this painting? Miss White Tiger was also a little surprised. This nine-tailed divine fox was not a fool. How could I not know? The nine-tailed divine fox's eyes narrowed slightly. This painting has been lost for thousands of years. I didn't expect it to be in your hands. An old friend entrusted it to me. Miss White Tiger smiled. Long before Li Fan, he entered my pagoda. He has this 10 Miles Pavilion of Spring in his hands. There's such a powerful person. Li Fan was a little curious. Please tell me. He was a few hundred years earlier than you. His name is Liu Jinchan. Fuck, Liu Jinchan. This name resounded like thunder. If not for the fact that they were in different generations, he really wanted to have a good spar with him. Speaking of which, this Liu Jinchan. The martial arts he practices should be the same as Imperial Concubine Ju's Vairocana Heart Sutra. But Imperial Concubine Ju has lived for hundreds of years. How did he pass away? Li Fan muttered. Since he's such a powerful almighty, he might still be alive, right? No, he's already passed away. Miss White Tiger shook her head. I saw him pass away in meditation in this sacred pagoda with my own eyes. At that time, he was about 160 years old, but he still had white hair and a youthful complexion. He had the aura of an expert. It's a pity. I can't see him. That's not necessarily true. Miss White Tiger pointed to the landscape painting of the pavilion hanging on the wall. When he passed away, a remnant soul of his was left in this painting. In a while, you can see this legendary figure with your own eyes. Ah, could it be? This is. Li Fan seemed to have guessed it. That's right. This painting is the psyche room that I mentioned. Miss White Tiger nodded. This painting is a world of its own. Just like your mirror, it's a treasure left behind from ancient times. Go, I will protect you. If you're in danger, I will immediately close the painting and release you. All right, I will do my best. Li Fan nodded. Miss White Tiger immediately cast a spell, causing Li Fan to feel his body suddenly become very light. Then, he began to shrink, and the entire world was magnified. The figures of Miss White Tiger and the nine-tailed divine fox also turned into giants in the blink of an eye. Before Li Fan could take a closer look, his body turned into a wind and was stuffed into the painting. When Li Fan landed on the ground again, he realized that he had arrived at a small pavilion by the lake. The side of the pavilion was filled with white peonies that swayed in the wind. It was very beautiful. A terrifying pressure landed on Li Fan's body, causing Li Fan to feel that his body was extremely heavy. Just as Miss White Tiger had said, the gravity here was 10 times that of outside. It wasn't just a matter of gravity. Li Fan felt that his head was also very heavy, as if there was a rock pressing down on his head. This oppressive feeling made him feel extremely depressed. He even wanted to end his life in this pavilion at any moment. Chapter 1593. Li Fan didn't feel any spring in the so-called 10 Miles Pavilion. Instead, he felt like he wanted to die. It would be too depressing to live here. The nine-tailed divine fox and Miss White Tiger also flew in and attached themselves to Li Fan. Li Fan immediately circulated his power to protect his entire body, trying to block the mental suppression here. However, mental suppression was more special. It was not affected by true qi and directly acted on Li Fan's brain. Li Fan did not dare delay. He immediately got into a cultivation posture and let the Taiji diagram in his body begin to circulate. He tried to enter a state of cultivation without any desires. However, it was very difficult to enter a state of cultivation in such a place. Li Fan's mind was in a mess. It was as if there was a mournful voice screaming, making him restless. Empty your mind and guard your heart. At that moment, a hearty voice sounded in Li Fan's ears, causing Li Fan's body to tremble. The other party recited a series of incantations. It was a method to adjust one's breathing. It was not considered profound. However, at this moment, it seemed to have some good effects. A silver-white glow slowly emerged from Li Fan's body. His mind also began to clear up. The Taiji diagram in his body spun faster and faster. It was like a sports car that had stepped on the accelerator to the end, speeding uncontrollably on the road. Li Fan had already entered a state of cultivation. Under this state of mind, his cultivation speed was indeed more than 10 times faster than usual. As for Li Fan's Taiji diagram, it was too domineering. Every time it spun 81 times, it would forcefully absorb the surrounding energy. Not only did it absorb the primordial energy in the painting, but it also absorbed the power of Miss White Tiger and the nine-tailed divine fox and fused them into the Taiji diagram. This made Miss White Tiger and the nine-tailed divine fox complain incessantly. If this continued, their souls would probably be destroyed. However, Li Fan's cultivation was permanent. After he finished absorbing a wave, the Taiji diagram rotated 81 times. After refining the power, it returned to the two of them. At the same time, Li Fan realized that he had also absorbed a wave of pure yang inner energy and fused it into his Taiji diagram. The four powers in the Taiji diagram were mixed together. His pure yin primordial energy, the mysterious pure yang inner energy, the red demonic power of the nine-tailed divine fox, and the white holy power of Miss White Tiger. Taiji was a mixture of yin and yang. The current situation allowed the Taiji diagram to unleash its true power. Li Fan felt his strength increase by leaps and bounds. At the same time, the nature of the Taiji diagram was undergoing a change. The four powers were fused, tempered, and slowly formed into a new type of energy before, which was returned to the Taiji. Now, a new power was being born in his body. In the Taiji diagram, rays of golden red light were flowing everywhere. It Li Fan Li, I Fan I was, I or not. Since he was coming up with a name and he wanted to surpass the grandmasters, he might as well make it a little more impressive. Emperor Aura. Li Fan decided to call it that. Congratulations, you fused a new power. The hearty voice sounded again. Your power is extremely domineering. It has the demeanor of an emperor. Li Fan let the Taiji diagram in his body continue to spin. At the same time, he opened his eyes and looked around. On the lake beside the pavilion stood a man dressed in white. The man was about 20 years old. He was very young. He had thick eyebrows and big eyes. Li Fan of the Seven Knights Villa greets Senior Liu. Oh, you recognize me? The man stood on the lake and walked on the waves. Soon, he arrived in front of Li Fan. He was dressed like an ancient person and spoke in an ancient style. For hundreds of years, no one has entered this painting. It looks like you're fated to be here. I've admired you for a long time. There was no one else around. Li Fan decided to be a fan. I've also practiced your self-created god-slaying swordsmanship. It's really amazing. Oh! Liu Jinchan could not help but look at Li Fan. I created the god-slaying swordsmanship on the spur of the moment. I didn't expect you to learn it. However, looking at your martial arts, you don't seem to be from my sect, right? Senior, I'm practicing the 9 Dragons skill and the yin-yang reverse training that I've learned. I see. No wonder I've never seen it before. Liu Jinchan nodded. But you don't have to call me senior. Look at me. I'm so young. We can just call each other brothers. No. You're so much older than me. How can I let you call me big brother? Phut. You're ridiculous. Of course you're calling me big brother. Oh, right. Look at me. I'm so excited that I'm confused. Li Fan blushed. However, Liu Jinchan laughed out loud. Forget it. Who's the big brother and who's the little brother? What's the point in this 10 miles pavilion? Liu Jinchan continued. Kid, with your cultivation, have you already peeped into heavens beyond? Not just peeped. I even captured an inferior immortal from heavens beyond and locked him up in this white tiger sacred tower. When Li Fan mentioned this, he was a little smug. He's just an inferior immortal. You're so excited. You're still young. Liu Jinchan was not surprised. That inferior immortal is at most 10 martial saints. I was untalented back then. I could even beat up an upper immortal. Even if I encounter a heaven immortal, I can still fight. Senior Liu, you're too awesome. Li Fan was flabbergasted. Don't tell me you've practiced immortal techniques. Immortal techniques are nothing. Although Liu Jinchan did not understand what awesome meant, he guessed that it was a compliment. Those immortal techniques are not that much stronger than our martial arts. It's just that they've been practicing for a long time. They're slightly stronger than us. As long as we break through the heavenly moat of martial fighters, given time, we can also become experts who can kill gods and Buddhas. The problem is that we don't have enough time. Li Fan sighed. I did break through the heavenly moat of martial fighters. But the threat from heavens beyond is getting more and more pressing. They will soon invade Earth and turn this place into their home. Alien foreign clans have wild ambitions. Liu Jinchan scolded. If it wasn't for the fact that during the primordial era, our ancestors' internal strife was too severe. Our experts were all killed and injured. How could those foreign clans be so arrogant? This, internal strife, is our Chinese's habit. Moreover, history can't be changed. It's better for me to think about how to increase my strength to fight against those fellows. You alone won't be enough. Liu Jinchan shook his head. There are many people in heavens beyond. Just the strongest heaven immortals, there are 8 of them. Moreover, even if you can fight against these 8 people, there's still a truly terrifying immortal prime waiting for you. Chapter 1594. Liu Jinchan did not look like he was trying to scare Li Fan, but was merely stating a fact. Immortal lord. Millimeter. Liu Jinchan nodded. This immortal lord is the first person to lead the foreign races of heavens beyond, the ancient almighty who migrated from outer space to here. He is heavens beyond's last hope. Once he makes a move against you, Millimeter, he really can kill you with one finger. Li Fan's pride was hurt. Motherfucker. Although this was indeed the case, Liu Jinchan's words were too hurtful. Kid, I am not trying to scare you. With your current strength, you are at most half an inferior immortal. But with your martial arts, it is not surprising that you can defeat an inferior immortal. But a heaven immortal's strength is 100 times that of an inferior immortal. For you, it is at least 200 times. Needless to say, the legendary immortal lord's strength is almost 1,000 times that of yours. Can such an almighty squash you with one finger? Yes, although he was unwilling, he had to admit it. Damn it, 1,000 times. This was too scary. Fortunately, that immortal lord had already exhausted his strength when he brought everyone here and is currently in deep sleep. Otherwise, no matter how fast you train, I am afraid you will not be his match. Hearing Liu Jinchan's words, Li Fan finally heaved a sigh of relief. Heavens beyond can only rely on you now. Liu Jinchan placed his hands behind his back and stood in front of Li Fan. You have your own way of training, I have nothing to give you. Moreover, what I am most interested in is that you have cultivated the power of lightning into your body. This is very interesting. At that time, I was just improvising. How did you receive the power of lightning into your body? Liu Jinchan could not understand this. Don't tell me you used your own body to withstand the lightning. That thing, even if you are a heaven immortal, you cannot use your body to withstand it. To withstand the lightning, one could only use the energy in one's body, but to absorb the power of lightning, one had to use his body to directly touch it. Back then, even Liu Jinchan did not have this ability. Therefore, after his god-slaying sword was created, he had not used it. The times have progressed very quickly. Now, humans can already produce electricity. Li Fan said that science and technology create the future, so it's a man-made mine. Realization dawned on Liu Jinchan. No wonder. The might of thunder in your body isn't very strong. However, your body has a stronger power of ice. This should be changed. Liu Jinchan reminded Li Fan, in the past, your power belonged to the feminine side, so it's possible for you to cultivate this cold attribute frost power. However, your current strength is too domineering and masculine. This ice element is a bit of a hindrance. I suggest that you expel the cold air in your body and focus on cultivating the power of lightning. This way, your lightning power will be even purer, and it will be even more helpful to you. Li Fan nodded. Liu Jinchan's suggestion was indeed correct. But in this way, the power of his profound dragon ice palm would be greatly reduced, and it might even become a third-rate palm technique. Although it was a pity, after cultivating to Li Fan's level, his moves would be simplified. This was also a way for him to evolve. Thank you, Senior Liu, for your suggestion. I will start cultivating now. Time was very short. A month's time would pass very quickly. Li Fan did not dare to hesitate. He immediately adopted his unique cultivation posture and entered a state of concentrated cultivation. A wave of cold air was still flowing in his body. Although Li Fan was reluctant, he still forced the cold air along his legs to the ground. The extreme cold air in Li Fan's body was 100 times more powerful than Luo Xuewu's cold technique. Very quickly, a layer of ice formed under his feet, and the ice continued to spread. In a short while, the entire lake surface had frozen. White snow began to fall from the sky, and Liu Jinchan was surprised to see this. What a strong cold air! This kid's martial arts is indeed extraordinary. As Li Fan channeled the cold air out, the power of thunder in his body suddenly became excited. In the past, it was the home field of the cold air, and the power of thunder could only guard in a small corner. But now, the cold air was gone, and the power of thunder immediately came. In an instant, it went through all the meridians in Li Fan's body and entered his body. Li Fan felt a slight numbness in his body. After all, it was the power that he had refined, so it would not harm him. And under the tempering of the new Emperor's energy, the lightning had also turned golden. So this is my power. Li Fan looked at the power of thunder in his body. The thunder and lightning were wrapped around the Tai Chi diagram, and as the Tai Chi diagram rotated, it continued to strengthen. At this moment, half of Li Fan's Tai Chi diagram was red, and the other half was blue and white. Beside the Tai Chi diagram, there were 8 trigrams runes. 4 of them were lit up, and the other 4 were grey. Once all 8 were lit up, his Tai Chi diagram would enter the next stage, and his strength would officially enter the lower immortal level. The human body was truly mysterious. Li Fan felt that he must have more secrets. The people of skies beyond liked to temper their strength, so he should temper his body even more. As the saying goes, the body is invincible. When the time comes, he can beat up those so-called immortals. Li Fan closed his eyes and began his cultivation at a speed that was 10 times faster. Just like what he said at the beginning, Li Fan's cultivation here was like a car that had stepped on the floor oil, and his speed became faster and faster. At first, it was 10 times, then 15 times, 20 times, and finally, it was fixed at 50 times. His inner force increased by leaps and bounds, as if he had opened a cheat. The Emperor's energy was also becoming more and more condensed, and the rumbling lightning was re-tempering and activating every meridian, flesh, and blood in Li Fan's body. The 8 trigrams beside the Tai Chi diagram slowly lit up. After a month, Li Fan's 8 Tai Chi diagrams had completely lit up, and his Tai Chi diagram was spinning rapidly. The colors of yin and yang were changing. Very quickly, his Tai Chi diagram became half gold and half silver, and one of the 8 trigrams beside it was lit up. Li Fan opened his eyes, and a faint lightning light flowed out from his eyes. Huff! Li Fan spat out a mouthful of turbid air. He felt that his body had become even stronger. The electric current would stimulate the body's cells, and Li Fan was the beneficiary. "Oh right, before I leave, I recommend you to meet someone." Knowing that Li Fan was about to leave, Liu Jinchan, who was guarding by the side, suddenly said, "Hey, is it urgent?" Li Fan was concerned about the martial competition of the realm. In the past, it was only a martial arts competition in China to choose the leader of China's martial arts world. But now, under the government's interference, even the foreigners were going to participate. "Ian, after all, you can't come here anymore in the future," Liu Jinchan said with a smile, "so, I want to help you again." Chapter 1595. I can't come again? Li Fan was shocked. "The painting will spoil." "That's not it." Liu Jinchan shook his head. "This painting is an ancient treasure. It will always exist. However, there's a restriction on the painting. A person can only enter once in their lifetime. Since you've been here once, you can't come a second time." "Why is there such a restriction?" "It's simple. This kind of treasure belongs to the welfare category. Since you've already enjoyed it once, you can't keep it for yourself, right? Between heaven and earth, everyone's fortune is equal. Since you've already enjoyed it, why be greedy?" "Senior's right." Li Fan understood what Liu Jinchan meant. In other words, this painting was a cheat that could only be used once. If it was used too many times, it would be easy for the GM to ban it. After all, this is a unique space. I'm prepared to borrow the power here to send you to another plane. However, this will consume a lot of energy. With the power of this painting, you can only stay there for 10 minutes. After 10 minutes, how much you can benefit from it will depend on yourself. To where? How do you know? Li Fan was puzzled. I accidentally entered it once. That's why I remember the aura there. Liu Jinchan said embarrassedly. Actually, I used to be a useless martial artist. It was because I accidentally entered that space that I was enlightened by the people inside. That's how I improved by leaps and bounds and became a powerhouse. Fuck. So awesome. Yes, time is limited. You must cherish it. Liu Jinchan nodded. Then, he stretched out his hand and clasped the top of Li Fan's head. Remember the aura there. Follow it. A strong suction force immediately pulled Li Fan. At the last moment, Li Fan asked hurriedly, "Senior, where is that place?" "Tongtian Tower." Pop. The space was forcefully squeezed. Li Fan's figure disappeared. Liu Jinchan stood beside the pavilion. His body slowly turned invisible. However, a smile hung on his lips. "Kid, represent the clan of martial fighters and teach those grandmasters a lesson." As soon as he finished speaking, Liu Jinchan's soul completely dissipated because he had used up all of his energy. At this moment, Li Fan's body flashed, and in the blink of an eye, he arrived at a void. Nothing could be seen here. It was pitch black all around, but there were specks of starlight flickering in the distance. Tongtian Tower. Li Fan vaguely remembered that he had been to such a place before. Liu Aigua. Li Fan couldn't help but shout. Suddenly, a huge pressure came from in front of him, almost causing Li Fan to kneel. A man who wasn't very tall suddenly appeared in front of Li Fan as if he had torn through space. He sat down in a chair, resting his chin on his hand, and looked down at himself. Li Fan was a little stunned. Fuck, it's not Liu Aigua. Why does this person seem a little resentful? You're not Liu Aigua. Seeing this person, the nine-tailed divine fox in Li Fan's body suddenly trembled. It actually flew out of his body, and with a plop, it knelt down in front of this person. Master, oh, so it's Lin Tong's clansman. The other party saw through the nine-tailed divine fox's memory at a glance and nodded. All right, it's a coincidence. It's fate. After saying that, He looked at Li Fan again. You don't have to panic. I'm this generation's great cosmos god. As for Liu Aigua, fuck him, that old brat stick ran away long ago. At first, he was still very serious, but later on, this person directly started swearing. How was this the demeanor of a great cosmos god? He was clearly like a resentful woman. If I get out, I'll definitely pull out all the tendons and bones of that son of a bitch. Fuck. He scolded loudly. Suddenly, he coughed twice and adjusted his collar. Sorry, I lost my composure. Just pretend that you didn't see what happened just now. Alright. Li Fan did not know whether to laugh or cry. This was a great cosmos god. From the looks of it, he seemed to be around the same age as him. You don't belong to this world, and I can't help you much. However, I can help you improve your fusion method with the spiritual beasts. Ah, this works too? In the past, I relied on this move to start my career. The great cosmos god laughed. It is fate that we met. For this little fox to fall into your hands, it is proof. Li Fan, your talent is actually better than mine. You can roughly understand 30% of this move of mine when I use it. But this 30% is enough for you to enjoy for the rest of your life. Saying that, he extended his right hand. Suddenly, a blood-red lightning appeared in his palm. It kept rolling in his hand, bringing with it a shocking energy. Li Fan subconsciously floated further away. But he still felt his heart palpitating. This move is called Sky Lightning Transformation. Watch carefully. Saying that, the great cosmos god took that lightning and smashed it into the top of his head. Peng! Blood-red lightning immediately appeared on the body of the great cosmos god. It revolved around him continuously, and his strength rose by quite a bit at this moment. His skin became brighter as if it was emitting a faint light like a firefly. This is the first Sky Lightning Transformation. Next is the second Sky Lightning Transformation. Saying that, the body of the great cosmos god suddenly trembled. The lightning on his body became thicker by several times. It directly rolled out and struck the surroundings. And the muscles on his body swelled by quite a bit. The light on his body became even more intense. Finally, the third Sky Lightning Transformation, a lightning symbol suddenly appeared between the eyebrows of the great cosmos god. Following that, the lightning rolled a few times, and his body directly became 3 meters tall. The lightning condensed behind him, forming a blood-red lightning ring. This is the third Sky Lightning Transformation. The first transformation can double your strength. The second transformation can increase it by 5 times. The third transformation can increase it by 10 times. With your comprehension ability, you should be able to comprehend the first transformation. That should be sufficient. Then let me try. With only a few minutes, Li Fan could not properly learn it. However, he was very engrossed in watching and was afraid of missing out on even a little bit. Li Fan extended his hand. A golden lightning appeared on his palm and rolled in his hand. The great cosmos god was using lightning to activate the cells in his body, allowing the skills of his entire body to circulate rapidly. Come. Li Fan smashed the lightning palm into the top of Great Song's head. This lightning energy immediately poured in from the top of his head and instantly swam around his body. Sky Lightning Transformation. First level. Li Fan's hair stood up slightly. Lightning swam around his body. Not bad. You have comprehended the first level. You can go back now. The voice of the great cosmos god fell. Li Fan's body trembled again. Second level. Li Fan's muscles suddenly swelled, and the lightning on his body became several times thicker. Chapter 1596. The great cosmos god opened his eyes wide. How many years had it been since he was so surprised? It seems that I have underestimated your potential. He added, comprehending the second level is already your limit. You don't have much time left. Go back. The third level. Li Fan's eyes exploded with golden lightning. His body suddenly expanded to more than 3 meters tall. Fortunately, the sportswear he was wearing was made of nanomaterials. It immediately stretched and expanded. At the same time, under the influence of Li Fan's power, this set of nanomaterials slowly turned black and gold. There were some lightning patterns imprinted on it. The great cosmos god was speechless. Just as he was about to say something, a golden light pressed down on Li Fan's body. With a pop, he disappeared in front of the great cosmos god. "Ma Dan, why isn't he in my plane?" the great cosmos god scolded. "Otherwise, I would have tricked this guy to come in and take over my shift." Li Fan's figure instantly traversed through the plane. With a pu sound, he landed beside the pavilion. However, another golden light collided with his body. Li Fan felt as if he had been hit head-on by a large truck and almost fainted. He was sent flying and fell heavily into the training room of the White Tiger Pagoda. "Husband, you are back?" Chana gently helped Li Fan up. Then, she whispered in his ear, "These few days, your satellite phone has been ringing. It's General Ran." "Ian, I got it." Li Fan moved his muscles and bones. This thunder transformation was indeed a little abnormal. However, because it activated the body's functions, there were not many side effects after using it. It was just some muscle soreness. However, he had not grasped the third level of this thunder transformation too well. He could only roughly use it for 3 to 4 seconds. It was indeed a technique used by the strongest expert in another plane. It was really powerful. Li Fan checked his body. There was basically no problem. Although his muscles were a little sore, he should be able to recover when he reached the place. "Husband, you are the villa master of the Seven Heroes Villa. Do you want to bring 2 people to the Martial Society convention? Let Choa and Donga follow me." Li Fan thought to himself, "Choa can cook. She's a must-have when we go out." On the other hand, Donga knew a lot about martial arts. She should be able to display her skills in the martial arts tournament. "All right, then Shia and I will guard the house for you." "No, no." Shia barged into the room. The little girl seemed to have been listening at the door. "Since it's a martial arts competition, I want to go as well. I'm the one with the highest level of martial arts among the 4 of them. Mister, you must bring me along." Shia was naturally active and loved martial arts. When she heard that Li Fan did not want to bring her along, she could not sit still. "I want to bring all 4 of you, but there's someone at home to watch over." Li Fan reached out and patted Shia shoulder. "Shia, I'll leave the family to you and Chana. As long as you guard this place, no matter where I go, I'll have a place to stay. Don't worry, husband. We will definitely look after the house well." Chana knew Li Fan very well. She quickly pulled Shia back and made a promise to Li Fan. "All right, then I'll leave it to you." With Chana and Shia watching over the house, Li Fan could rest assured. He made a prompt decision and left the White Tiger Sacred Pagoda with Choa and Dong. It was a long journey. After Li Fan left the pagoda, he followed the 2 beautiful sword maids to the shore. General Rant's men were already waiting on the shore. They did not know where Li Fan lived, but they knew that if they wanted to pick up Li Fan, they could just wait at the pier. A helicopter was parked there. General Ran had actually come to pick up Li Fan personally. General Ran actually came personally. "I'm really flattered." Li Fan looked at General Ran and could not help but tease him. "We're all brothers. What's the point of saying all this?" General Ran grabbed Li Fan and dragged him into the military helicopter. "Kid, it's getting harder and harder to invite you. Are you used to being the island lord? You don't even want to talk to your brother anymore? What are you talking about? I've been busy cultivating in seclusion recently." Li Fan laughed bitterly. "Do you think it's easy to be a martial artist? Especially since I have to participate in the martial tournament this time. The Martial Emperor and Jiang Feng are eyeing me covetously. I have to go all out." "The Martial Emperor? Didn't you and Jiang Feng kill the Martial Emperor together?" General Ran was shocked when he heard this. He was resurrected by the people from beyond heaven and was trained to be an agent. Li Fan looked at General Ran and admired his expression. "How is it? Are you surprised? Are you surprised? Don't joke with me. My heart is not too good. I can't take this kind of shock. You're a soldier even if your heart is not good." You're really going all out. Is what you said true? The martial emperor felt that Li Fan did not seem to be joking. His heart immediately became heavy. Well, I've already fought with him once. His kung fu has improved greatly. I was almost defeated by him. Li Fan looked at the heavy face of General Ran and patted him on the shoulder. Of course, don't worry. I didn't go into seclusion for nothing. Also, why are you so active this time? Why did you ask me to participate in the martial tournament? According to the wishes of China, I shouldn't be participating, right? Now you have no choice but to participate. General Ran made a bitter face. After all, you're still a Chinese in name. This year, the American Empire sent an expert. Guess who he is? Who? Isn't it those guys who studied the Zeus project? That kind of clown. If he comes, I'll beat him up. No. That person is you. What? Li Fan was originally calm, but when he heard this, he was a little stunned. Take a look. General Ran took out a document and placed it in front of Li Fan. Number 9. Li Fan recognized the person in the document. He's working for the Empire now? He was a little puzzled. Although this number 9 was created in the Empire's laboratory, he should hate the American Empire very much, right? Now, he was actually willing to work for the American Empire. He even participated in this martial arts tournament for the American Empire. Fuck, this guy doesn't know martial arts at all. He completely relies on his own brute force to survive in society. He's now a big shot in the Empire. General Ran saw through Li Fan's thoughts. He asked Li Fan to flip through the document. Now, he's the hero of the American Empire. Everyone knows that he's called number 9. He's the savior. How ironic. Li Fan couldn't help but sneer. The American Empire developed him to make him the most powerful weapon. I didn't expect him to become the hero of the American Empire. That's strange. This person is rude and unreasonable. How did he become a hero? You can study more about him. General Ran looked at Li Fan seriously. Moreover, this time, China has some requests for you. Chapter 1597. Every few years, Huaxia would hold a martial arts conference. It was organized by the Sky Martial Pavilion in Jianghu, and all the martial arts sects in Huaxia were invited. Regardless of whether they were big or small sects, they were all qualified to participate. And the person who became the champion was fully deserving of the title of Master of Martial Arts, the leader of the martial arts world. The previous Master of Martial Arts was Murong Ying. Although she was not a Grandmaster at that time, with her exquisite swordsmanship, she defeated a few Grandmaster-level masters, and thus took the position of Master of Martial Arts. However, there were still some criticisms in Jianghu. Many people said that Murong Ying had relied on her father's authority to sit in this position. There were even rumors that Murong Bo had already reached an agreement with a few grandmasters. He would not participate in the martial arts competition, and at the same time, secretly gave the grandmasters some valuable gifts. Then, the grandmasters deliberately gave way to Murong Ying, and helped their daughter take the position. Because of this, Murong Ying had never said anything. But she was also waiting for this year's Martial Arts Circle convention to use her true strength to prove her status. Li Fan was now an overseas sect. If he participated in this martial arts conference, it would not be a good thing for the martial artists in Huaxia. However, compared to those who had fair skin, blue eyes, and golden hair, Li Fan was still considered half a family member. This time, the martial arts conference was interfered with by the government, and forcibly turned the martial arts conference, which was used to select the Master of Martial Arts Conference, into an international martial arts competition. Although it was still organized by the Sky Martial Pavilion, in order to adapt to the rhythm of the competition, they could only make some changes to the rules of the competition. This time, the entire world would be broadcasting the competition live, and it was even more spectacular than the Olympics. This time, the winner was not just the Master of Martial Arts Conference, but the real number 1 in the world. Regarding this kind of competition and the title of the winner, Li Fan only thought of one word: King of Fighters. At this time, The helicopter was flying above the arena. Li Fan looked at the huge arena below and could not help but feel emotional. Just this martial arts arena alone was as big as a football field. There were rows of spectator seats around, and they would all have to sell tickets to enter. The ticket sales and the surrounding income naturally belonged to the local government. However, since there was such income, the local government also had to provide the contestants with a place to stay and a place to eat. This really became the Olympics. At this time, in his mind, Li Fan was still thinking about what General Ran had said to him. The government hoped that Li Fan could participate in the competition as someone else this time. Because there were large and small sects participating in the martial arts tournament, there was a small sect called the Heroic Martial Sect participating in the martial arts tournament. Because of the government, Fan could enter the martial sect and become a martial sect's participant. The Heroic Martial Sect was also a martial arts sect that was supported by the government. They wanted to form their own martial arts force. General Ran meant that Li Fan was already an overseas sect, and the government did not want his image to win the championship this time. Li Fan's influence was already not small. If Li Fan won the championship, then there would be more people who would worship him, and then run to his 7 Nights villa, which was also his island to live. The government definitely didn't want to see a brain drain. What's more, this was a martial arts tournament that was hosted by Huaxia. The winner had to be from Huaxia. The government knows that you can disguise yourself, so they hope that you can change your appearance and participate in the martial assembly as a disciple of the Heroic Martial Sect. If I win, then the Heroic Martial Sect will win, and the government will be able to promote the image of the Heroic Martial Sect, killing 2 birds with 1 stone, right? Li Fan saw through the mystery in one go. I'm just conveying this opinion. It's up to you whether you agree or not. At that time, General Ran's face turned red. At this time, General Ran was secretly looking at Li Fan. He felt very apologetic. When they were discussing this matter, Li Fan did not refute it and directly agreed. But General Ran felt very sorry for Li Fan, and he was really sorry. Just like what Li Fan said, it was really ironic. Number 9 used to be a murderous demon king. He created a terrifying killing weapon. However, after doing a few things, he became a hero in the eyes of the Americans. He was put in an important position by the Americans and even represented the Americans to participate in the martial arts tournament. As for Li Fan, he had done a lot for Huaxia, but in the end, he became a person that Huaxia didn't want to mention. In this era, Huaxia didn't want a hero to appear, but the Americans were willing to have such a hero appear. This is the last time I will do something for Huaxia. Li Fan finally turned his head and said to General Ran, after this, I won't be a member of the National Security Bureau anymore. I want to return to the Li family island. Okay, I promise you. General Ran agreed. If the higher-ups don't agree, even if I have to smuggle you, I will send you back to the Li family island. I want to return to the Li family island. Why would I need to smuggle? Li Fan smiled. I only want a promise from Huaxia. I hope to enter the Li family island in an open and above-board manner, and also enter Huaxia in an open and above-board manner. I understand what you want. General Ran nodded. Li Fan was a true patriotic person. Unfortunately, the internal forces of Huaxia were complicated. Some people appreciated Li Fan, while others hoped that Li Fan would die. Since you understand me, I won't say more. Regarding the decision of the higher-ups, Li Fan was helpless. The only thing he could fight for was a normal person's identity. Huaxia has let you down in too many ways. General Ran was very ashamed. Huaxia has not let me down. It's just that some people in the government don't like me. I, Li Fan, do not live for them. I only live for my heart. Therefore, I am willing to hand you over. General Ran patted his chest. Don't worry, I will try my best to fight for a real identity for you. At that time, everyone will know your name again, and they will be proud of you. It's enough to hear brother's words. Li Fan's righteous look made General Ran unbearably moved. But Li Fan was secretly laughing in his heart. This time, even if he wanted to hide his identity, the martial emperor and the others would not allow it. When the battle reached a critical point, they would definitely recognize his true identity. He was not a spy, so how could he hide his identity so easily? In this kind of martial arts tournament where he had to go all out, he could not hold anything back. The higher-ups had calculated it well. They wanted him to work hard, but at the same time, they wanted him to give them a gift. Dream on. The people from the heroic martial sect are below. I will send you down. All right, old friend, just watch my performance. Chapter 1598. Li Fan disguised himself and slightly changed his appearance. Then, under the arrangement of General Ran, he prepared to enter the heroic martial sect. Although the heroic martial sect had the support of the government, it was still a small sect. Although General Ran didn't want to reveal anything, Li Fan had already found out some information through Ling Tian. Now there was a martial arts general administration in Huaxia, which was responsible for dealing with matters in the martial arts world. This bureau chief's surname is Niu. Let's just call him Bureau Chief Niu. This guy used to work in the education department, but he was incompetent and messed up. Later on, he was transferred to the General Administration of Martial Arts. When he first arrived, he wanted to make drastic changes. He reached an agreement with a group of foreigners and turned the Martial Arts Assembly, which was used to elect the leader of the martial arts circle in China, into an international martial arts competition. He also created the heroic martial sect, which was supported by the government, and was prepared to control the entire martial arts circle in the future. It was said that this bureau chief Niu even wanted to poach the sect leaders of a few big sects to be the instructors of the heroic martial sect, but in the end, they were all rejected. Bureau chief Niu was furious. He almost wanted to reform the martial arts again. In the end, a few sect masters agreed to be the consultants of the heroic martial sect. This time, the idea of letting Li Fan advertise the heroic martial sect was also thought of by this bureau chief Niu. His original plan was for Li Fan to withdraw from the Seven Heroes Villa and join the heroic martial sect to become the official representative of Huaxia. But as soon as this was proposed, it was directly rejected by General Ran's faction. Ling Tian's sources said that Bureau Chief Niu was very angry at that time. During the meeting, he criticized some people for not being patriotic and not knowing how to look at the bigger picture of the country. Li Fan just smiled at these words. What he loved was this piece of land, not working for some government official or working for some bureau chief to get promoted and make a fortune. You are Li Yun. Although the heroic martial sect was still a new small sect, the dormitory they were staying in was not small, it was a luxurious set. When Li Fan walked in, the two martial artists were exercising. When they saw Li Fan, they did not welcome him. Instead, they smiled disdainfully. The dormitory is full. You can sleep on the sofa. A young martial master with a crew cut crossed his arms and said to Li Fan. Sure. Li Fan did not care. It did not matter if these people bullied him. He was only here to participate in the martial arts circle convention. He would leave once he completed his task. However, these people were different. They seemed to be here to fight for glory and even power and profit. Li Fan was different from them. If it weren't for General Ran's request, he wouldn't even be here. You're very smart. The man with the buzz cut looked a little proud. Someone like you who came in through the back door deserves this kind of treatment. All right. Li Fan acted like he didn't have a temper and actually agreed with a clear conscience. His attitude stunned a few of the martial masters who were prepared to take him down a notch. As the saying goes, you don't slap a smiling face. Whatever the other party said, they couldn't go too far. All right, you should rest. The man with the buzz cut couldn't handle Li Fan, so he simply ignored him and continued to practice on his own. Li Fan was happy to be free. He sat cross-legged on the sofa and began to meditate. Because there were other people around, Li Fan did not focus too much on his cultivation. After all, this was not his own closed-door training room. Everyone practice well. When senior sister arrives, we will ask her for advice. I really don't understand. She is so much younger than us. How did she become our senior sister? Who asked her to enter the sect early? Moreover, I heard that her martial arts are very powerful and her sword techniques are godly. A few of the heroic martial sect's disciples started to mutter. Li Fan listened from the side and did not interrupt. He was just curious about the origin of this senior sister. Hearing these people's worshipping tone, she should be a very powerful expert, right? At this time, a few disciples suddenly quieted down. Li Fan felt a powerful force approaching. He heard the respectful shouts of the disciples. Senior sister. Greetings, senior sister. Welcome, senior sister. Everyone flattered her. They were all waiting to get the favor of their senior sister so that she could teach them a few moves. Senior sister, I see that you are only SOSO. Let me, Wang Dali, try your best. A burly man wearing a leopard print vest seemed to be unconvinced. He looked at the girl who walked in and took a big step forward. He grabbed her shoulder, as if he wanted to give her a show of strength. But the girl did not retreat. Instead, she moved forward and crashed into the burly man's chest. The sword hilt in her hand fiercely struck the burly man's lower abdomen. Bang! Li Fan could feel a burst of air exploding from the burly man's back. Wang Dali's vest was immediately torn apart. He himself fell to the ground, foaming at the mouth. It was obvious that he was not lightly beaten. Senior sister was indeed senior sister. With this move, she suppressed the surrounding people. But this senior sister did not care about the others. She directly separated the crowd and walked to the front of Li Fan. She raised the sword in her hand and placed it on Li Fan's shoulder. You are Li Yun. Li Fan finally opened his eyes and looked at her. His heart fiercely jumped. This girl was not someone else but an old acquaintance. Liang, are you? It really is you. Although Li Fan's appearance had changed slightly, Liang Yu was still able to recognize him at a glance. Especially Li Fan's alias, Li Yun. Liang Yu had a deep impression of him. Even if you turn into ashes, I will still recognize you. Liang Yu's pair of beautiful big eyes stared fiercely at Li Fan. I didn't expect that you would really dare to come. Everyone started to mutter. Senior sister knew this guy who entered through the back door. What was the relationship between the two? It seemed like their relationship was very bad. I didn't expect that the new Shongfang sword would be you, Li Fan sighed. This was really an ill-fated relationship. Li Yun, you rascal. I will teach you a good lesson. Liang Yu's expression was complicated. Li Fan could not tell what the little girl was thinking. She walked forward and grabbed Li Fan's collar. Come to my room. No matter what the others hear, they are not allowed to come in and are not allowed to plead for him. Do you understand? Yes, senior sister. No problem, senior sister. It has been hard on you. The surrounding disciples did not dare to say a word. One by one, they watched as Li Fan was dragged into the innermost room. All of them rejoiced in his misfortune. This brat was too unlucky. It was probably because he was not strong enough that he entered through the back door and was despised by the powerful senior sister. But in consideration of the face of her fellow sect members, she was not willing to make a fool of him in front of everyone. She was probably teaching him a lesson right now. Pitiful junior brother. Who asked you to not have any strength? In the heroic martial sect, everything was based on strength. What about Wang Dali? Let the doctor come and take a look at him. While the people outside were busy, in the room, Liang Yu suddenly put down her sword and tightly hugged Li Fan. Liang Yu. It's not good for us to be like this. Smelling the faint fragrance from Liang Yu's body, Li Fan said. Chapter 1599. You're just a coward. Liang Yu hugged Li Fan tightly, and did not have any intention of letting go. I fought for this qualification, just to be able to find you, and then let you acknowledge me. You still borrowed your father's authority. Li Fan had a headache. This girl, she had always shouted that she did not want to be treated as a second-generation official, but for him, she actually took this step. I'm borrowing it, so what? Liang Yu had indeed relied on her father's relationship to get the chance to visit the Shongfang sword. Her strong desire to get close to Li Fan had reached an agreement with the wishes of the Shangfang sword. Although the sword spirits inside the Shangfang sword did not like Li Fan was undoubtedly their best successor. And Liang Ayu's desire for Li Fan, the mental power that she emitted, also affected them. In the end, the Shangfang sword actually broke through the restrictions that the Dragon Lady had placed on them, and formed a contract with Liang Ayu. Liang Ayu had only tried her best, but she did not expect that she would actually succeed. She was wild with joy, and then, she saw Li Yun's name in the heroic martial sects list. Liang Ayu was very smart, and she had a certain level of political acumen, so she quickly guessed some clues. You. How stupid are you? Li Fan sighed. Aren't you stupid? You're more stupid than anyone else. Liang Ayu's strength reminded Li Fan of his past self. Anyway, no one can stop me from doing what I've already decided. I, Liang Ayu, will follow you for the rest of my life. You can't escape, and no one else can snatch you away. But I really have a girlfriend. Li Fan emphasized, and there's more than one. Li Fan's harem had reached a mysterious tacit understanding. It was impossible for the few women to not be jealous at all, but Li Fan was smart. He let the few beauties have their own things to do, and it was impossible for them to put all their thoughts on men, so it was better. But occasionally, when a few of them gathered together, they would fight openly and covertly, and the energy of jealousy would surface. Li Fan didn't have a better way to deal with this. He felt that it wasn't appropriate for him to add to his romantic debt. I don't care, I want to compete with those women. Liang Ayu was very confident in this aspect. Our Liang family's genes are good. It's the same for me. I'm beautiful, young, and multi-talented. I even have the Shangfang sword. Who am I afraid of? You. Li Fan was usually a glib talker, but he didn't know what to say now. Liang Ayu was too stubborn. She really wouldn't turn back until she hit the wall. In any case, I've decided. That's it. Liang Ayu emphasized, to prove my determination, just watch. As she spoke, she suddenly tiptoed and kissed Li Fan's lips. Although the little girl screamed happily, the feeling of kissing was very inexperienced. After all, she had no experience in this aspect. When she was with her ex-boyfriend, Liang Ayu was also very traditional, which was the opposite of her flamboyant personality. At this moment, this inexperienced kiss was given to Li Fan, causing Li Fan to be stunned. That kind of wonderful taste was like a fruit in early spring. It was sweet and sour. Li Fan couldn't help but take another bite. But he quickly came back to his senses and pushed Liang Ayu away. Let's start with friends. Bah. You're taking advantage of me, but you're pretending to be innocent. Liang Ayu suddenly pulled out her Shangfang sword. Li Fan, I heard that you're the villa master of some 7 Knights villa, right? Come. I want to see whether your 7 Knights fist is stronger or this Mrs. Sword is sharper. Li Fan blinked his eyes. Liang Ayu's room wasn't big. It was like a single-person apartment. Inside, there was a bed, a table, and a bathroom at the side. The entire room looked to be about 10 square meters. If he wanted to fight, he wouldn't be able to use it at all. Also, I'm no longer practicing the 7 Knights fist, but the 9 Dragons execution. Who cares what it is? Come, let's do it. The young lady held her shining sword and pushed at Li Fan with her left hand. The powerful spiritual force immediately blew on Li Fan's body, causing him to fly out and hit the door behind him, making a bang sound. Mental energy inherited from the Shangfang sword. It seemed like those sword souls really liked this lass Liang Ayu. They actually passed their mental energy to her. My mental energy was cultivated with my life on the line. Comparing myself to others would be infuriating. A complacent smile hung on Liang Ayu's lips. She leaped up and stabbed at Li Fan with her sword in hand. The young lady didn't show any mercy. She directly stabbed at Li Fan's lower abdomen. Trying to murder your husband? Bah. Not yet. Liang Ayu was already in front of him. Li Fan forcefully broke free from Liang Ayu's mental control. He leaped and slid up the door. Then, he stuck to the ceiling. Pu. Liang Ayu's sword directly pierced through the door. The blade came out from the other side of the door. A few disciples who were eavesdropping outside the door approached and saw the sword that pierced through the door. They immediately broke out in cold sweat. "Fuck, she's serious, it's a little scary, let's leave quickly." The people at the side left one after another. They didn't dare to watch the show. Inside the house, Li Fan continued to fight with Liang Ayu. "Don't underestimate me." Liang Ayu effortlessly pulled out her sword. Then, she jumped up and slashed at Li Fan above her head. Li Fan stretched out 2 fingers and flicked Liang Ayu's sword. Clang! The Shongfang sword was directly bounced off and stabbed into the ground. Use a sword. If you want to attack, you have to focus on stabbing. Li Fan didn't forget to give Liang Ayu pointers. Liang Ayu stretched out her hand. The Shongfang sword flew back to her side and floated in front of her. Shongfang sword control. Liang Ayu used her mental strength to modify the sword control technique. She pointed at Li Fan, and the sword flew directly toward Li Fan, stabbing at Li Fan's glabella. Li Fan flicked his finger and shook off Liang Ayu's sword again. Liang Ayu exerted her mental strength and made the Shongfang sword spin around the room, waiting for an opportunity to attack Li Fan. The Shongfang sword seemed to have come to life and suddenly attacked from behind, stabbing at Li Fan at lightning speed. Li Fan didn't even turn his head. He tilted his head slightly, and the sword brushed past his ear and stabbed out. However, Li Fan reached out and grabbed the hilt of the sword. The Shongfang sword struggled hard, but it couldn't break free from Li Fan's palm. "Be obedient after seeing your old master." Li Fan snorted coldly. The Shongfang sword finally admitted defeat and obediently quieted down, staying in Li Fan's hands. "You're relying on brute force to attack now. This won't do." Li Fan looked at Liang Ayu, who had a face full of unwillingness. "You have to learn techniques." Chapter 1600. The disciples outside all thought that senior sister was teaching the newcomer a lesson in the room. Who would have thought that it was actually this young man teaching their senior sister a lesson instead? Stab. 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 Stab with force. Stab quickly. As Li Fan speaks, he continuously stabs Liang Ayu with the Shongfang sword in his hand. But every time his sword stops in front of Liang Ayu can't even see how Li Fan attacks. She can only feel a gust of cold wind blowing past her face, causing her to shudder. She originally thought that after obtaining the Shongfang sword, she would have the strength to match with Li Fan. But who would have thought that reality would be so heartless? It directly slapped her in the face. Li Fan's strength has long surpassed her level. "No way." Liang Ayu suddenly shouts, "You must teach me a sword technique that can defeat you." Ha! When Li Fan heard this, he immediately laughs, "You're teasing me. I don't want to be so mediocre. I have already obtained the Shongfang sword, I must have the corresponding strength. I heard that your sweetheart is called Murong Ying, at least I must be able to defeat her." Wanting to defeat her is indeed a bit difficult. Li Fan said that even if Liang Ayu has the Shongfang sword, even if she uses the sword soul's power to transform, she might not be a match for that lass Murong Ying. That woman is very powerful, her strength is almost on par with his. Although he has been diligently cultivating, Murong Ying has definitely not been idle for so long. "I don't care, I want to learn. Even if you want to learn, I can't teach you." Li Fan doesn't know whether to laugh or cry. "You just have to properly understand the essentials of using the sword that I told you. Sword techniques are broad and profound, there is a lot for you to study. Isn't it just stabbing and stabbing? You men are the best, how can we women know? Do you have to be so dirty?" "How am I dirty? It's obviously your own dirty thoughts." Li Fan felt that he couldn't win against Liang Ayu in an argument, so he simply waved his hand and said, "That's enough. I'm going out to eat. I'll go with you. Please, you are the senior sister. I am just a small martial master." Li Fan reminded Liang Ayu, "Don't expose me. You are the villa master of the 7 Chivalry Mountain Villa. What are you afraid of?" "Even if I'm not afraid, I have to think about my brothers who make a living." Li Fan said, "Sometimes, You can't be willful just because you want to. If you want to follow me, you have to learn to look at the big picture first. Humph. If you don't want to eat with me, then don't eat with me. Who cares? Liang Yu opened the door and kicked Li Fan out. Go eat your food. Everyone looked at Li Fan sympathetically. He was taught a lesson by his senior sister on his first day here. It was really too miserable. Brother, let's eat together. Li Fan and the others also saw a few foreign martial artists in the cafeteria. There were martial artists from various countries. Several foreign martial artists were amazed by the facilities and food of China. Hi. Li Fan and Liu Bufan randomly picked something to eat. Because they were martial artists, not bodybuilders, they did not need to be too strict with their diet. When a blonde beauty saw their food, she could not help but be curious. She immediately brought her chicken breast and milk and sat directly in front of them. Hello. Liu Bufan was warm and talkative just now, but in front of this beauty, he stuttered and his face turned red. Li Fan thought to himself, does this guy have social phobia? Hello, I am a French jiu-jitsu player. My name is Teresa Bell. She communicated with them in fluent Chinese. Hello, my name is. His name is Liu Bufan. Li Fan introduced. What about you? My name is Li Yun. Your Chinese is not bad. Of course. After all, I had a Chinese boyfriend. The French beauty Teresa sighed. Unfortunately, his kung fu is not good. We can only break up. Hey, what kung fu does he practice? Kung fu in bed. Chapter 1601. It is said that French girls are passionate and romantic, and they are more open when it comes to sex. Li Fan had only heard of it before, but today, he finally witnessed it for himself. But that's all in the past. I'm married now. Teresa happily said, I'm very happy to be able to participate in this martial arts competition. China's food is very good, although it's still a bit inferior to our French food. I feel that our Chinese food is more delicious. Li Fan smiled. Every country has its own eating habits. It's fine as long as you're happy. That's right. Both our countries have a good food culture, unlike those British who are so boring. Teresa said as she looked at the food that Li Fan and Liu Bufan were eating. However, don't you feel that it's inappropriate for you to eat this kind of food before the martial arts competition? Teresa chose food that was rich in protein and less oily. We are martial artists. There are some differences between us and ordinary martial artists. Li Fan explained with a smile. What's the difference? I don't understand. Teresa was very puzzled. Could it be that it's like the legendary Seven Beasts Villa, where they can control some sort of mystical chi? It's the Seven Knights Villa. Li Fan corrected Teresa. And China is not just the Seven Knights Villa. Just as Liu Bufan shouted, he saw Teresa's big blue eyes. His hot blood faded and he immediately stuttered again. There's also our Shaolin. Shaolin? Is it that place where everyone is a monk? But do you have hair? Teresa let out a question that sounded like a young girl. I'm a layman disciple. Liu Bufan coughed twice. Moreover, what we cultivate is indeed qi. We call it true qi. With that, Liu Bufan picked up a cup. The water inside was originally cold, but very quickly, the water began to boil. Li Fan couldn't help but want to give a thumbs up. Unexpectedly, Liu Bufan was less than 30 years old and already so proficient in internal energy. It seems that although there's something wrong with that bureau chief Nyo's head, the people he found are not bad. Wow, so magical. Are you a heat ability user? Teresa clapped her hands repeatedly. It's not heat. It's true energy. Liu Bufan was about to say something when a bald man walked over. His dark skin made him look like a wild beast, full of threat. It's all showy but impractical. Bai Sen, isn't it inappropriate for you to say that? Teresa frowned, feeling that the dark and tough guy was being a little too rude. You are so ungentlemanly. There are no gentlemen in the arena. Black and Hard replied coldly, and there were already people in the surroundings looking over. When they saw him, they started to discuss spiritedly. My God, boxing champion Bison? He's also here. Should I withdraw from the competition? I heard that those who fought with him were all crippled. How terrifying, such a cruel fellow actually participated. Hearing the crowd's discussion, Blackheart's stiff face finally seemed to have a little bit of color. China's martial arts are broad and profound. You can look at it however you want. Li Fan pulled Liu Bufan, who was eager to have a try, and said, "You'll be beaten up later." "Heh, a boastful monkey. I want to beat him up." Liu Bufan couldn't bear it anymore, but Li Fan tried to persuade him. "Don't worry, we'll have to go to the arena in a while. We'll deal with him then. It's against the rules to make a move now. Damn it, let's let this black ghost go first." As soon as Liu Bufan's voice fell, Li Fan suddenly raised his hand. Bam! Black and Hard, who had gone far away just now, had returned to them unknowingly and punched Liu Bufan. And Li Fan's hand just happened to block his fist. A slight explosion spread out. Black and Hard furrowed his brows. He did not expect that his fist would actually be blocked by someone. "What are you doing?" Liu Bufan didn't notice this punch. He thought that Black and Hard was just trying to scare him, so he immediately glared at him. "How dare you insult me?" Bison looked at Liu Bufan coldly. "Your Excellency insulted my Chinese martial arts first. Have you forgotten?" Li Fan's voice was still indifferent. "We have a saying in China, don't do to others what you don't want done to yourself." Humph. Bison swung his hand, withdrew his fist, turned around and left. "When we get to the arena, I must teach this guy a lesson. Don't worry, you will have a chance." Li Fan patted him on the shoulder. "Don't bother with that guy, he's very annoying." Teresa also comforted the two of them. "You don't know any manners, barbarian. There must be all kinds of contestants, it's normal." Li Fan's temper was very good, so Teresa kept calling him a gentleman. "Are you going to the martial arts field later?" Teresa asked. "Yeah, we have to warm up before the match." "Haha, I still want to teach my junior brother a few moves." Liu Bufan became excited again. He pulled Li Fan's arm. "We'll go first." "Wait, I want to go too." Teresa seemed to be very curious about Chinese kung fu, especially the legendary True Chi. She wanted to see how powerful it was with her own eyes. Thus, this enthusiastic French beauty followed Li Fan and the others all the way to the martial arts field. This martial arts field was divided into many rooms, a total of more than 100, for the martial artists from all over the world to apply for use. Liu Bufan used his ID to apply for one and walked in with Li Fan and Teresa. The martial arts field was more than 30 square meters. The area was not bad. It was covered with mats and surrounded by mirrors, making it convenient for everyone to practice martial arts. "Quick, let me see your Chinese martial art." Teresa was very anxious, and Liu Bufan also wanted to show off his martial arts, so he walked forward and performed a set of Ahut fist. Looking at his Ahut fist, Li Fan could not help but nod. This guy's Ahut fist was quite good. At his age, it was already not bad to be able to practice to this level, but Teresa could not see anything. Instead, her face was full of doubt. "This is Chinese kung fu. Please forgive my rudeness. But it does look like a flowery but impractical move." "Who said so?" Liu Bufan was anxious. He turned around and punched a sandbag at the side. Bang! The sandbag was pierced by Liu Bufan's punch, and the sand inside flowed out. "Wow! What a powerful punch!" Teresa finally looked at it seriously. "But I can do it with my jujitsu." As she spoke, she stretched out her hand and inserted it into another sandbag next to her. The sandbag was immediately broken. Looking at her move, Li Fan was a little surprised. This girl's way of using her strength was quite amazing. Chapter 1602. Teresa had heard of the so-called Chinese kung fu before, but she had never seen it before. If Chinese kung fu was only at this level, it would be too disappointing. Chinese kung fu is broad and profound. It's not for performance. Li Fan explained, if you want to know more, you can watch from the side. Alright, I'll watch more. Teresa was very curious. She really wanted to see what was so powerful about this so-called Chinese kung fu. She heard that Li Fan from Seven Knights Villa was almost invincible in martial arts. How powerful was he? Isn't there a saying in Huaxia? Seeing is believing. I must get to the bottom of this today. Junior brother, let me teach you 2 moves. Liu Bufan was very enthusiastic. He patted Li Fan's shoulder and said, just these 2 moves. I guarantee that you will enjoy endless benefits. Thank you, senior brother. Li Fan did not refuse. If he was willing to teach, he would learn. He had seen the exquisite 1000 Buddha palm of the Shaolin abbot, but he had not seen what the Arhat fist looked like. Watch carefully. The first move is called Arhat hits the bell. As Liu Bufan spoke, he suddenly moved sideways and punched Li Fan's chest and lower abdomen with both fists. Li Fan immediately took 2 steps back and pretended. This move is fast. It doesn't rely on the strength of the fist, but the horsepower of the waist. If there is an enemy entangling you, you can use this move to win. Liu Bufan was very honest. He told Li Fan the more common fist techniques. If you are hit by the enemy, it doesn't matter if you ride on top of him. Liu Bufan pulled Li Fan and let him ride on his body as a demonstration. This move is called Arhat lifting. The premise is that you have to train your arm strength well. After Liu Bufan said that, he grabbed Li Fan's legs and lifted him up. Li Fan's body flipped in the air and landed firmly on the ground. When I was in Shaolin, I fetched water and chopped firewood every day, so my arm strength was pretty good. Liu Bufan waved his arm. With these 2 moves, you can guarantee your survival. Thank you, senior brother. I've learned a lot. Li Fan cupped his fists to express his gratitude. You're too polite. We're fellow disciples, so there's no need to be so polite. Liu Bufan was also a little happy. After all, it was very satisfying to show off in front of a beauty. Male hormones were the easiest to secrete in front of women. This had not changed for thousands of years, no matter how civilization had developed. Some of the Chinese kung fu is indeed ingenious, but I am more confident in my jujitsu. Teresa watched from the side for a long time and finally said, why don't we spar? This way, we can have a deeper understanding of each other's moves. As soon as she finished speaking, Liu Bufan's phone rang. He hurriedly ran over, took it, and said hurriedly, you guys practice for a while. There seems to be a problem with my accommodation procedures. I'll go settle it. After that, Liu Bufan ran away in a panic. Since he's gone, you come and spar with me. Teresa's eyes fell on Li Fan's face, and there was some persistence in her eyes. It was said that French people were lazy, but Teresa, who was so serious and waiting to spar with Li Fan, made him feel a little bitter. Please, dear Mr. Li. Before Teresa got permission, out of politeness, she couldn't make a move on Li Fan. All right. Li Fan knew that if he didn't agree, Teresa might pester them for a whole day. In order to make this beautiful French girl give up, he could only make a move. Honorable lady, please go first. No matter what, Li Fan was the host. Teresa was a guest and a beauty, so he should let her make the first move. Okay. Teresa didn't know how to be polite in this aspect. She suddenly lowered her body and then pounced over. Teresa learned Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and her moves were fierce. Her goal was to drag the enemy to the ground, and then suppress and strangulate them. She was best at joint techniques. As long as she pestered this Asian guy, she would definitely be able to subdue him. Teresa went straight to Li Fan's knee in a glance. She directly crashed into Li Fan's arms, and then put her hands on his calves, wanting to lift Li Fan first. Teresa knew that with her own weight and the strength of her arms, she should be able to lift a person who weighed 200 kilograms. However, Li Fan's feet seemed to be rooted to the ground. No matter how hard she tried, she couldn't move him. How could this be? Teresa was very surprised and couldn't believe what she saw. At this moment, Li Fan's palm suddenly hit forward, directly on her lower abdomen. Bang! Teresa's body flew out as if she was hit head-on by a car, and then fell heavily to the ground. What? Teresa couldn't understand. It was just an ordinary palm that didn't seem to have any strength. How did it send her flying? This is impossible. This is true chi. Li Fan roughly explained, different from external strength, our true chi relies on internal strength. How is this possible? How can there be such a strange thing like chi in the human body? Teresa still couldn't understand, and Li Fan didn't explain further. If you want to understand, you can try to understand more about Chinese Kung Fu. Also, you can go to the Seven Knights Villa to learn martial arts. You will gain something there. The Seven Knights Villa again. I'm really curious about that place. After all, I'm a martial artist from the Seven Knights Villa. Li Fan spread his hands and got into a tiger fist stance. When we get to the arena, I can show you our sect's most basic Seven Knights fist. I want to see it right now. Teresa was very anxious. She pounced at Li Fan again, and at the same time, she was vigilant. No matter where Li Fan attacked, she would be able to neutralize it immediately. Li Fan stood there, waiting for Teresa, without any intention of making a move. Chapter 1603. But how did you shoot out your inner force? Teresa asked solemnly, is it because they are stimulated, and stimulated again and again before they are gathered in one place and shot out? Li Fan's face turned red from the question. He didn't know how to answer for a moment. Fuck, did Teresa really not understand, or was she too naive? Just now, something hot seemed to have entered my body. Teresa's face was filled with disbelief. That feeling of swelling, it felt like I was going to burst open. Li, shoot at me again. I want to feel this magical heat again. Please, let me feel it again. Li Fan didn't know what to say. This Teresa, she had brought up the topic. Come on, I know you Asians like to be reserved, but we Westerners don't care about this. Just launch your attack and pounce on me. Come on. Teresa, let's calm down. Li Fan decided to let Teresa calm down. After all, I still have to participate in the preliminaries. I hope to keep some trump cards. I hope you understand. You Asians always like to hide something. Teresa sighed. But it doesn't matter. I will definitely squeeze everything out of you. Not a single thing will be left. Liu Bufan happened to come in from outside. When he heard Teresa's words, he was stunned. He looked at the two people in the room strangely. His expression was as strange as it could be. Senior brother, don't misunderstand. What Miss Teresa means is that she wants to feel my vital energy. Oh, Liu Bufan looked at Li Fan with a rather ambiguous gaze. Li Fan complained incessantly. Goodness, she is a married woman after all. Isn't it not good to misunderstand? I'm here to inform you guys. Liu Bufan laughed. Although I don't know if I'm disturbing you guys, the first round of the preliminaries is about to begin. This was an international martial arts competition jointly organized by the Sky Martial Pavilion and the government. Not only would the champion obtain the third page of the True Celestial Arts, but there would also be a prize of 1 million. The second and third place would receive 500,000 and 300,000 respectively, while the fourth place would receive 200,000. The remaining top 8 would receive a prize of 100,000 yuan. The two temptations attracted many people to participate. Just the number of applicants alone was more than 1,000 people. In order to choose the winner from so many people, they needed to go through an audition. I was assigned to the 10th arena. Take a look at which arena did you guys get? Liu Bufan said, didn't we have an app on our phones when we came here? The higher-ups have already assigned us a venue. Let me see. Li Fan unlocked his phone and glanced at it. He was in the 15th district. Fortunately, he avoided senior brother Liu Bufan. You're in the 15th zone, and I'm in the 20th zone. Maybe we'll have a chance to meet, Teresa said excitedly to Li Fan. There will be 16 contestants in each arena, and it will be a free-for-all. The final winner will advance to the next round. 108 contestants would be selected in the first round, and they would have the chance to fight for the championship. In other words, the throne of the Martial Arts Alliance Master. There will be a total of 3 days of competition. I'm really looking forward to it. Liu Bufan was a little excited as he clenched his fists. With my strength, it shouldn't be a problem for me to enter the top 8. When I get the prize money, I'll treat you to a drink. The top 8, and even the top 4, would probably have great commercial value in the future. Li Fan believed that from now on, what awaited these people would be all kinds of advertisements, right? For sports, once it involved business, it was unknown whether it was good or bad. However, if the heroic martial sect's disciples were to get the opportunity to advertise, I'm afraid that the so-called department head Nyo would take all the profits, right? It wasn't that easy to mingle in the system. There were 3 matches this afternoon. Li Fan, Teresa, and the others were divided into groups and headed to the competition arena. There were too many people, so they had to select the top 32 as soon as possible. Today, they had to select the top 32 in one day. On the second day, they would select the top 4, and on the third day, they would decide the champion. Li Fan came to his arena number 10, which was actually a very large empty room. Inside the room, there were already 16 contestants with different skin colors. Among them, there were more Chinese people. Li Fan didn't see any powerful characters. To be honest, he wanted to see Jiang Feng, Martial Emperor, as well as number 9's battle. However, this time, would the sect leaders of the 6 great sects come? They should come. If they could win in the competition, it would be very good for their sect's publicity. Just like that year, when Li Fan defeated the strongest martial artist, Takeda Tokishi, it made the 7 Knights Villa famous. The competition time is half an hour. The rule is that fatal attacks are not allowed. The referee of the arena number 10 said, "You can take the initiative to admit defeat or fight out of the stage. If the contestant admits defeat, the others are not allowed to attack him. And the contestant who admits defeat must immediately leave the arena and not affect the competition." Understood. Hurry up and start. A brawny man waved his sturdy arm. "The champion is mine." When he saw Li Fan walking out, his eyes had a look of disdain. "A small man like you also wants to compete for the champion?" Li Fan's height was only 1.7 meters, but this brawny man was close to 2 meters tall. His body was full of muscles, and his body seemed to be very strong. The level of martial arts is not determined by height. Li Fan smiled, walked up the stage, and showed his ID to the referee. In a while, I will let you know who is the one who decides." The brawny man rubbed his palms together, preparing to start with the weakest Li Fan. This brawny man was not joking. The muscles on his body were like rocks. This brother's weight was 200 kilograms, and he could forcefully pull out a small tree. With such a strong strength, he was known as a tank in the fighting arena. He was determined to be the champion. Today, he must crush these pitiful little fellows. Not only him, a few other contestants on the stage were staring at Li Fan like a tiger watching its prey. They all wanted to make a move on the weakest him, but Li Fan just stood there, wearing the martial attire belonging to the heroic martial sect. His upper body was white, and his lower body was black. The heroic martial sect's logo was printed on his back and chest, and on his shoulder hung a small 5-star red flag. It was this small red flag that gave Li Fan a sense of belonging. He stood on the stage, not the least bit nervous. Instead, he had a relaxed expression. One of his hands was behind his back, and the other was hanging in front of him, as if he was watching a show. Competition start. Chapter 1604. Match start. The referee finally blew the whistle. 2 martial artists who were closest to Li Fan pounced at him. Both of them were grandmasters of combat. It seemed like they wanted to eat Li Fan, the weakest little fish first. His mine. One of the grandmaster of combat with longer legs was obviously faster. With a proud smile on his face, he rushed to the front of Li Fan first. With a kick, he aimed at Li Fan's head. However, Li Fan turned his body slightly and easily dodged the vicious kick. At the same time, he raised his left hand in front of him and placed it on the left rib of the Grandmaster of Combat. True Chi Wave. Li Fan made up a name randomly. He gathered a bit of inner energy on his palm and then released it. Bang! The Grandmaster of Combat's body was hit by the inner energy directly. His waist bent as if it was about to break. Then, his whole body flew out and landed heavily outside the ring. A few people were dumbfounded. Before the other Grandmaster of Combat could react, Li Fan had already taken a step forward and placed his palm on his lower abdomen. What? Fuck! Before he could finish his sentence, he felt as if his lower abdomen was punched hard. He spat out a mouthful of bitter saliva and flew out, landing on the body of the brother from before. 2 out. The referee came back to his senses. After all, this was a martial arts competition. There were all kinds of experts. He did not expect to see an inner energy expert with his own eyes. How lucky. Deliberately mystifying. The 2-meter-tall man did not care at all. With his body's ability to withstand attacks, even if a small car were to crash into him at 30 miles per hour, he would be able to block it. He was that strong. He was a real tank of flesh. He stepped on the ground and started running. His speed was so fast that he brought up dust. In the blink of an eye, the man rushed to the front of Li Fan. Then, he extended both his hands and hugged Li Fan. Ha ha ha, go and die. The burly man picked up Li Fan, and then the muscles on his arms bulged. He hugged Li Fan tightly, trying to crush Li Fan's spine. Based on his usual strength, even an iron bucket would be crushed by him. However, no matter how hard he tried, the little man in front of him could not move Li Fan at all. Strange. The burly man was puzzled, but under this pressure, Li Fan actually opened his mouth to speak. Your strength is not bad, but you can't use it skillfully. As Li Fan spoke, he slowly withdrew his palm from the burly man's arm and placed it on the burly man's chest. Jin Chi Wave. Bang! The man felt as if all the air in his lungs had been squeezed out. He let go of Li Fan, took 2 steps back, and knelt on the ground. As for Li Fan, he walked forward and directly pressed his palm on the burly man's lower abdomen. Another muffled sound. The burly man, who was more than 200 kilograms, was actually sent flying and fell outside the arena. I forfeit too. How do we fight like this? Upon seeing this, the rest of the contestants raised their hands and surrendered. Li Fan couldn't help but shrug his shoulders. The contestants in this arena were all trash. Okay, the competition has ended. The champion of arena number 10 is contestant Li Yun from the heroic martial sec. Please return to the resting room. The second round of selection will begin in an hour. Yes. Li Fan walked into the resting room. The resting room was not small, and according to the requirements of the Sky Martial Pavilion, it was separated. About 10 contestants in the second round could share a resting room. Li Fan walked into the resting room and realized that there was already a familiar face sitting inside. Jiang Feng was wearing his Imperial Army uniform, leaning back on the chair, reading a book in his hands. He seemed to be quite studious. Oh, you're here too? Jiang Feng recognized Li Fan with one look. This doesn't suit you. It's too ordinary. Isn't it good to be ordinary? Ordinary people can only be led. Jiang Feng said slowly. As for me, I only want to be a leader. Then I can't be compared to you. I would rather be ordinary and live a carefree and happy life. Li Fan sat on the sofa at the side. A waiter passed a towel over for him to wipe his sweat. Not like you, worrying to death every day. Even your hair has turned white, right? My hair is still black. Jiang Feng laughed. As for you, your hair has turned a lot white. What are you worried about? Tell me. Maybe I can help you. What I need to worry about are them. Li Fan pointed his finger upwards. Do you know that the martial emperor has been revived? Oh. Jiang Feng finally raised his eyes from the book and looked at Li Fan. This kind of thing is not suitable to be joked about. Have you ever seen me joking with you? Li Fan shrugged his shoulders. This time, he is participating. However, The current martial emperor is already the representative of sky beyond sky. He has mastered the complete true immortal art. Even Jiang Feng was a little speechless at this moment. For the true immortal art, he actually sold his dignity. How boring. Jiang Feng was rather disdainful. Hey, you don't seem to have the right to criticize others, right? I am bearing humiliation for my sister. Jiang Feng snorted coldly. Don't lump me with that kind of person. He keeps saying that he is the martial emperor, but in the end, he became someone else's lackey. However, you have also obtained his technique. Li Fan knew of Jiang Feng's ability. After learning the 5 Emperors Manual, what kind of strength have you reached? There's no harm in letting you see. As Jiang Feng spoke, his body suddenly emitted a black light, like a black coat, covering his body. Black Emperor Realm? Li Fan couldn't help but be surprised. My goodness, the realm that Martial Emperor has cultivated for so many years has not been able to reach, and you actually stepped into it so easily? Easily? Jiang Feng chuckled. How would you know how much suffering I have endured? That's your own business. Li Fan believed that his strength was not inferior to Jiang Feng. Sensing that someone was approaching the resting room, Li Fan only said, "We will see in the arena." All right. Jiang Feng didn't say anything more. He just sat there and continued to read quietly, as if he didn't know Li Fan. A few more martial masters came in, but everyone was relatively cold towards each other. After all, they would be opponents in the future, so no one talked much. However, there were 2 martial masters who seemed to know each other. Looking at their attire, one was a disciple of Kong Tong, and the other was a disciple of Qing Cheng. Senior brother Zhong, who do you think will win this time? Junior brother Wang, your roaring flame saber has already reached perfection. Even I have to concede defeat. I think you have a high chance of winning. Senior brother Zhong, you are too courteous. Your dragon catcher hand is also superb. Furthermore, this time, our 6 major sects have all sent our elite disciples. Furthermore, there are a few sect leaders here, so it won't be our turn. You're tuning in to the Dreamy Chapters YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.